Okay, guys, we are live. So, for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly. Actually, I won't be your friendly dungeon master today. All right, sweetie. Anna just came bursting in to say hi to everyone as well. Today, we are running actually the final of our charity one-shot sessions in 2020. Today we are going to be I'm not going to be running a game. I will be playing in a session of Lame Mage Productions Microscope RPG, and our generous donor, Robert, is going to be our GM for today. What I'll do is I'm going to just get ourselves up in make sure we're running here for the stream. And I'm going to turn things over to Robert. Robert's going to explain to us what we're going to be doing today. And maybe what I'll do is I'll start with you, Robert, and then I'll leave it to you to introduce everyone else. I can say that I have no experience with Microscope. I've watched an actual play on the Happy Jacks. The guys over at the folks over at the Happy Jacks our game. They ran a session with, I think, one of the. I'm not sure if it's one of the developers or one of the authors of the game, but apart from that, I have no experience with it. So next up, and the last thing I'll say before we dive into the game too, is an enormous thank you to Robert. Robert's very generous donation to the Heroes Save Villages campaign, the charity initiative that we run on the campaign that on the channel that benefits SOS Children's Villages International. That's what's made today's session possible. So, Robert, thank you so much for your generosity and for offering to run the game for us today. So, speaking of Robert, let's turn things over to Robert. I'm going to put you in the big place here, too. Tell us what we're playing today.
Okay. So, I'm Robert. I usually play in Kevin's Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea campaign. And today I'm joined by Kevin and two of the other players from that campaign. And of course, you've seen them on other sessions. I guess I'll start with, everybody knows Kevin, so don't really need to introduce him. And then we have Arlen.
He ain't important.
Yep. And then after you introduce yourselves, I'll tell you why what we're playing.
Hi, I'm Arlen, and I have not played Microscope at all. I haven't watched anything about it. I know what Robert has told us about it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nice.
And then on to Colin.
Hi there, yeah, I'm Colin, also known as Spike Pit after my endeavours in podcasting, and
the traps that he leaves for his neighborhood kids.
That's it, yeah. Yeah. And I've heard of Microscope. I've seen it played. It's one of those games that kind of has tweaked my interest, and it's really cool to be invited along to play in this session. So big thanks to Robert for that one.
Okay, great. So this is... Let's see, I was trying to think of how to describe this. It's basically a shared history generator is more or less what the easiest way for me to describe it. But there's no GM. So basically all of us will have moments in the spotlight where we're creating something. And for the most part, we won't be, when a person is creating something, the other people are not going to be jumping in and offering advice or saying, no, you can't do that. Basically, that person is going to create something. People can jump in, but only to clarify issues or to point out maybe if there's a contradiction with something else that we created. And one of the things that really caught my attention about this is that sometimes the histories that are generated end up becoming a world that people play in, using another RPG. So, like if you're creating a generic fantasy world, the history you generate can be used pretty much in any fantasy-based setting, and so on. And the nice thing about that is because the history you generate is going to be huge, basically. And so even though everybody who played the game of Microscope kind of knows everything you created, there's still parts in there that a DM could jump in and say, hey, I want to explore this area of it. The people who created it are invested in it, but they can... but the DM still has capability to surprise them with other elements that they make up on their own. So that's in the future. Who knows? Maybe this won't be used for that. But what I'm going to start is I'm going to read what the author said I should read to you. So it says, Microscope works differently than some other role-playing games you might have played, so let's abandon some preconceptions. You won't have your own character. You won't play the game in chronological order. You may know all about the future, but be surprised by the past. You'll build the story from the outside in. You'll decide the big picture, the grand scheme of history, and then burrow down and carve out the details. It's fractal gaming. So think big. You have a massive chunk of history to play around it. In Microscope, you build an epic history as you play. Want to play a game that spans the entire Dune series, the Silmarillion, or the rise and fall of Rome in an afternoon? That's Microscope. But you don't play the history from start to finish, marching along in chronological order. Instead, you build your history from the outside in. You start off knowing the big picture, the grand scheme of what happens. Then you dive in and explore what happened in between, the how and why that shaped events. You are free to jump backwards or forwards, zooming in or out to look at whatever you want, defying limitations of time and space. Want to leap 1,000 years into the future and see how an institution shaped society? Want to jump back to the childhood of the king you just saw assassinated and find out what made him such a hated ruler? That's normal in Microscope. You create independently but not in isolation. Each facet you add to the history builds on what other players built before you. You expand on their ideas and they expand on yours. History might not turn out the way you expected. Be prepared to think on your feet. When you zoom all the way into a particular moment in time, all the players share the stage and role play together to find out something we want to learn about the history. Did the crew of the Icarus know the aliens were on Titan? Did the rebels really fake the government crackdown? Do the knights remember the original meaning of their ritual vows? We role play and see. The more you play, the more your one simple summary becomes a detailed tapestry, full of meaning and surprises. History snowballs. And so that's the first part. And then immediately after that, this is a little shorter. He said, the author of the game says I should read this part to you because it's really important. All of us sitting at this table.
Hold on. An indie game developer who thinks it's really important that we hear what they think? Hold on.
Yes.
I am shocked.
Yes. It is funny. It's funny reading through a lot of this book, but he's very insistent that it be played a certain way, otherwise it doesn't work particularly well. All of us sitting at this table have equal creative power. At times we'll have different roles and authority, but we're all equal participants and authors. It may sound like I'm running the game because I'm going to be explaining a lot about the rules, and I may interrupt and jump in to clarify how the game is played, but I don't have any more authority than anyone else when it comes to actually playing the game. There's no GM. Now that we know what the game's about, we're ready to get started. So, to start a new game, we've kind of already discussed offline, but I can bring up the 4 ideas I had, and we can go from there. But
I think we had decided, hadn't we? I thought that you guys...
We did. I mean, nobody really responded, but I actually want to go through so people watching can...
Didn't he?
Arlen did, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did too.
Okay. Official, or maybe you responded to Arlen. I didn't see anybody specifically say.
I probably sent it to the wrong person. That would be accurate.
Okay.
Okay. Damn arrows.
It's going to be an interesting parent-teacher interview when your kid's teacher gets the email about you wanting to play The Fall of Human Civilization. Wait, what are we...
Okay, so the first step we did do, even though I didn't actually know it, I knew Arlen was on board with it, and I assumed that the dead silence I heard afterwards meant everybody else was okay with it.
Or they were just inept when it comes to IT.
Yes. So the first step, which we've already done, is the big picture, which is first brainstorm a simple overview of the history you want to play. And they're asking for basically a 1-sentence description that kind of summarizes the overall history. And I had suggested 4 of them. Since we've decided, I will just mention the one we described, which is humans destroy the civilizations of the elder races. And the genre I'm placing this in is fantasy. So we've done that. And Kev, do you have the what do you call it, the draw.io thing open so people can see or no?
I do. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Great. So I have that centered, and basically you'll see the name of the history across the top. And then we have a starting period and an ending period. In the game, there's going to be...
I may not actually have that open. I've got this the tabs open here that says Spike Pit was here, and I have...
Yep.
Oh, you just need to scroll to the right.
Yeah, just need to scroll to the right.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
So kind of that other stuff on the left-hand side is are things that we can go and grab if we need. So those are
got it.
Like if we need to add more periods or whatnot. So
yep.
Yeah. So the next step will be to bookend history, where your history will be divided into periods, and each period is a very large chunk of time, probably decades, centuries, something along those lines. And a quick overview before I go a lot further, in addition to periods, there will be events, and the events occur, the event is like a single thing that happens. Like if this was, in modern times, it would be, maybe a spaceship landed, on the lawn of the White House or something. And that would be an event, and you would place it within a period. So you can't place an event by itself. It has to go within a period that's already there. Within an event, you can have a number of different scenes, which are effectively what we would be role-playing out. And a scene is always a question. Why did... I'll give a couple examples in here. Let's see. When we get to it, it'll probably make more sense. But I had it. So the question is, why is the master hesitant to trust this particular monk to save the secrets of the temple? And then we create characters to basically answer the question. But at this stage, bookending history, you start with two periods, the starting and the ending. And we simply need to come up with a sentence to describe them, and then decide whether or not it's a light or dark period. The thing that kind of bugs me the most about this game, and I'll be kind of upfront with it, is light and dark doesn't have any kind of mechanics in the game. It's more like you just say it. You say, hey, this was dark because of this. And maybe that helps you kind of remember more details down the road if you kind of look at this and say, what does that mean? Oh, it was dark, maybe, yeah. So nevertheless, playing as is, we'll decide whether or not to fill in the circle at the bottom of each period or in the other items with either a white or a black circle, indicating whether it's a light or a dark period, event, or scene. So we know our thing is humans destroy the civilizations of the elder races. And now we need to bookend the history. And I know Arlen, again, came up with a couple of basic ideas. And the idea behind this is agree on a short description for each period, just a few sentences or a paragraph at most, and then write it down to summarize. So, Arlen, did you want to say what your suggestions were, and then we can discuss that further?
Yeah, so I sort of said it seems to me that the starting period is whenever kind of interaction begins, and the ending period is interaction ends, essentially.
Yep. Yep.
And that so the starting period, I came up with two ideas, and that's the arrival or the generation of humans somehow when humans are on the scene, because if they're the elder races, presumably the elders have been around for longer.
Yep.
And then for the ending to say that's the point where the elder races have died out or have gone into hiding or have somehow cut themselves off from humanity, and there's no more interaction between them any longer.
Right. And what's important about that is that we need to be specific about what that is. So, you have the three different ideas there for, like you kind of said, that they either disappeared, they were, or they went into hiding. Those are actually two different things. And one of the ideas about this game is that you should always try to be explicit if you can. So, we don't want to leave questions unanswered, because this is the idea that, yes, we're looking down at this from the bird's eye, so we would have seen if they went into hiding or if they, or if they were completely destroyed or wiped out. So, and that may matter, when we actually start making events and scenes within a period. So
it strikes me that we've already said they destroyed. Humans destroy them in the title.
Right. Although that's destroy the civilizations, right? So,
yes, yeah. Yeah.
So
a subtle difference.
Yes. So, and it is one reason that I phrased it that way, is so that there's some leeway as to what actually happens to them.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So Robert, since you know how the game is played, what do we do? Do we just pick one of these things, or
we can discuss it? I think I think the starting period is probably easier. So we have two things. We have either the arrival or the creation of humans, which
the creation myth, as it were, or not the myth, the actual fact of it all.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
So, do we want the creation of humans as it? Are there any negatives? Creation of humans.
Well, the reason I listed arrival as an explicit possibility was just thinking about the possibility that depending on what we want the nature of our world and our history to be like, that that allows for the possibility that there is kind of, if it is arrival, like what if it's a migration or something, and there were humans somewhere else before, versus versus with creation, obviously it's there are no humans before creation.
Right. I'm open to either idea. Which one do you prefer off the top of your head, Arlen?
I kind of like the idea of arrival.
Mm-hmm. How about others? Okay.
That's fine by me. I've got no. I'll give my 2 cents if I'm not sure of my opinions.
Okay.
And, I think arrival hadn't occurred to me. That seems like an interesting.
Okay. And that's open enough that the actual event could the events would describe more specifically how that occurred if we decide to explore that period. One of the things is, if there's a period on here, it doesn't necessarily mean that it ever has to have an event or a scene under it. So it's quite possible that this is left kind of in the mists of history and we never discuss it, or it might or it might be something that we end up spending a great deal of time on.
So we may not ever know. We may not ever reveal what that was.
Right.
It was an arrival, and that was that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And do we think that's probably light or dark? Like, do we feel that's kind of a happy, hopeful time, or it's already kind of,
I'll tell you right now, I'm going to defer to you guys to say, because I'm going to go dark every time. Otherwise, so this happened, this change came, and it was fucking awful.
Yeah. And one thing that the book kind of describes is, think about it. It might even depend on the perspective you want to show, right? So, let's just go to something like, in another example, a city is destroyed. Let's say that happens, right? Well, you might automatically assume it's dark, but maybe the city was corrupt, and so then therefore maybe it's a light event because it frees people or something like that. So
I feel like it. Go on, Alan.
So I am going to be a partisan of humankind and say that it was a dark time because the humans belonged somewhere and had to kind of construct that again, having lost it. That's what their arrival means to me.
Okay. So I will point out that that would be more of an event when you provide the specifics of that. So we can add that as an event later, but we can still say it's dark because they're maybe just saying attempting to build in what they perceive as a hostile world or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that sound?
No, that sounds just fine.
Okay. And how about you, Colin? Or did you have an alternative view?
Yeah, I was going to go with the glass half full theory. Just that it was their salvation. I picked up on that word migration there, and I had a little bit of maybe a Battlestar Galactica theme in the back of my head, and that they'd found this kind of salvation, and perhaps the elder races were quite broad-minded. They'd seen the arrival of humans as some kind of sign. Maybe it was divine. You know, there was some. What's it? What do you call it?
Divine intervention.
Yeah, it was a good omen kind of thing. And then that gives. I thought maybe that would give room for it to shift and go the other way, starting off light and then going darker. But like you say, it depends on whose point of view you're looking at it.
Right.
In some ways.
So I will go back to Arlen and ask, did that sway you, or are you still... And to point out, at this stage, we are collaborative. I should have made that a little more clear. Okay, until we get to past the setup, this is all collaborative, and we want to be at least in somewhat agreement on what these things are. If we have to, we can do a vote.
Well, I feel like there's two darks there voted already, so I feel I'm kind of out. I'm happy. I'm happy to be outvoted.
I'm also happy to do light. Is there room for kind of like a meta narrative discussion about like how we want kind of like the lights and the darks to line up? Like the idea of, because Colin mentioned the idea of like, what if we start in a lighter place and go to darker? And I'm wondering, like, is there room to say like, well, what if we started in a dark place and then we kind of got lighter and then it collapsed again?
Yep. I mean, that's certainly possible. There's definitely room to do both of those. All somebody has to do is create a second period in between these two that says, that turns it lighter. So...
we'll go dark then. Everybody's doom and gloom.
Yep. Okay, got it. All right, so I'm going to fill it in with a black. And Arlen, I just want one more quick clarification. So when we say arrival, actually, this is for the entire group. So we have heard the people say migration, right? We haven't completely nailed down the period, so we can say humans migrate into the lands of the elder races, for instance. That can actually be a period. Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Since migrate into the lands of the... Okay. And I just need to pull this down and shorten it a bit. Okay.
I mean, I keep imagining they come from space because I was playing this game earlier with some Yahoo.
Okay. Wait a minute. Do I want to know what happened in... was this the Ash game?
This was an Ash game, yeah.
Oh, God. You didn't bring down an astronaut with an axe on a skateboard, did you?
Close. No.
Okay. All right, I have to watch then. Okay, so the ending period. So we've had a number of phrases thrown around, like, I guess, races destroyed, races could be, I'm thinking what idea I had was races were enslaved. They could be races went into hiding. And even from the perspective, I'm thinking another alternative would be destroy the civilization, right? It could even be that the elder races there's, how do I want to put it? Their civilizations changed to become part of human. You know, I mean, that's another alternative. So it can be a number of different things, and you know, destroy obviously has a fairly strong connotation.
Mm.
But,
Yeah, it sort of suggests kind of violence.
Yep. So how do we think this looked? Do we think it was humans sent them into, basically destroyed their cities and sent them into hiding, enslaved them?
What if it was an inadvertent thing? Like, I mean, the idea of like humans coming in and annihilating everything is sort of, I mean, it's a trope probably for a reason. But what if it was an inadvertent thing? What if like with them arriving, not in a like a biological kind of way, but what if their arrival, if it's a fantasy world, what if it shifted the flow of magic or whatever, and that made it so that over time, as human civilization developed and would warp what would support these older races, that it made it so they just could not reproduce or they could not carry on. Lifespans got shorter, you know. It plays into some of those same tropes of humans just driving them out, but it being just a byproduct of their involvement, as opposed to them actively hunting and killing and whatever else.
It's almost like the Middle Earth, the time of men going from the second age to third age or whatever.
That seems to be fairly traditional in fantasy, but I would also like to point out that again, it's kind of hard to, because I even like to do this myself, but what we really want is, so Kev has kind of an idea more or less how he just created an entire arc more or less. And what we really want at this stage, and we might go that way, there's nothing wrong with that. We need to make the periods and events that show that. But what we really want is, what does that ending period look like?
Maybe it'd be easier if you give us an example of what you're looking for.
So basically,
like, I think, Robert, maybe just to facilitate things a little bit, I think you taking a heavier rudder or heavier hand on the rudder for this initial stuff might help.
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example that's in the book. It says, Allfather creates mortal
Well, no. Why don't you use an example for what we've got before us?
Okay.
Let's put some tent poles down and then start filling out. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to spend, an hour trying to figure out what the, right. how many walls we want.
Okay. So this could simply be, elder races go into hiding, or elder races disappear from the land.
Why don't you, I'm going to suggest you pick one.
Okay.
And just because, it sounds like there's plenty of room for us to be expanding in the middle there.
Yep.
Guys, is that okay with you?
Yeah, no, I think that's just fine.
Okay.
Fine with me.
Okay, sounds good. I just created elder races disappear from the land. And we can create events that bring that out a little bit more fully.
Yep.
And light or dark. I know Arlen wants to be light, that this would be a good thing for humans.
Or dark.
Or dark.
Weren't we going to end dark as we started dark?
Yeah. So it can get light in the middle and the dark later. And
I kind of wonder whether maybe these elder races are not really nice guys. Maybe it's a good thing that they disappear from the land.
It's possible.
Yep.
We'll find out. So why don't we leave it light then? I've suggested to kind of move on past this stage.
Yeah.
Unless
I say light, I reckon let's get rid of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I think it's a good thing they're gone.
Right.
They were the old way and we're the new way.
Yep. There you go. Okay. So this will move a little more quickly now, I think. So the next part to do is in the palette. Now, if you guys scroll to the left, you'll see something that says palette with yes and no. And the idea behind here is each player can add one thing, either a yes or a no. Add something to the yes column if you think the other players would not expect it to be in the history, but you want to be able to include it. My example was, if you were doing a science fiction game, you might include wizards as in the yes column. But if you were in a fantasy game and you didn't want wizards, you would put it in the no column, because people would expect there to be wizards in a fantasy environment.
Okay.
So basically, this is the things that you either want to be in the game or you don't want. And the point isn't that these are automatically there. They still have to be stated sometime in the history for them to appear. So, so I can go first. And my yes is going to be, and this is still a discussion. If people really don't like it, let me know, and that's fine. I was thinking about the elder races have steam level technology.
Yeah, let's I think, like Kevin suggested, let's for right now shift away from discussion to, like, we're going to put things on the board, and then once we have stuff on the board, we'll take away stuff if that's not
offensive.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
not how we want to do it.
Yep. Steam technology. Okay. And I want to put that in there.
Okay.
Okay, and Kevin, since you're the one who has the board up, this should basically be left to right, and then some other things will go right to left in the order that people are on the board.
Okay, I don't.
So, like,
sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. One second here.
Okay, so I don't have your YouTube screen, but
I'm on the
remember you gave
yes.
us- yeah. So if you gave us numbers, maybe put it this way, this should probably go order. I think I was number 3, so
Okay,
next
so
one
your
would be 4.
Pallette's gone up. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I see. I have that.
Yep.
All right.
So whoever's next on your screen to the right of me, basically.
You are not. Why don't we? Here, I'll go next. I'll add in yes to mushroom people.
Okay.
There's a fungal-based elder life.
Okay.
Arlen, you're up next.
I am going to add a no to I can't think of a better way to put this, but fantasy hippies. No elves that love forests and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one, man.
Yep.
I was thinking elves period, so I was so I'm on board.
Colin, you're up next.
So I'm not. I can't remember how I inputted this, but I guess that I'm not seeing anybody else's stuff. Who's putting it in? Are you putting it all in, Rob? Are you?
Yeah, Robert's putting it in on the draw.io.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can see a no as a bit. Oh, yeah, I see the fungal guys now. I've got to zoom in a bit more.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'd like to see some giant intelligent apes.
Okay. Yep.
Because they're badass.
Yep.
Okay.
Robert, you're up next.
Well, let's see. So if every player did add something, each player has the option to go again. If someone opted not to add something, stop, and your palette is done. So that's after basically nobody will get to add more than 2 things. I'm actually going to stop here.
Okay. Oh, let's see here. I want to keep saying yes. I don't want to say no to anything. So what do we got? We got fungal things. We got steam level. It's just I've been thinking about it far too much the last couple of days after seeing a new trailer. Yes to werewolf tribes.
What trailer was this?
Oh, for the new Werewolf the Apocalypse game.
Mm-hmm.
I love the world of what do you call it? The World of Darkness game from back in the day, and the game looks fucking super cool. So,
yep. Okay.
Arlen, you're up next. We got yes or no.
All right, I think I need to put a no to give us some guidance.
Yeah, I feel a no. I feel a no coming on.
That's so. What is
more werewolf?
and just to point out that this will be the last round, just because I passed. So,
yeah.
Okay.
So one more note from me. Colin, do you have one? You might go first if you have one. If you don't, I can come up with.
I feel like I want a big no stamp on some horrendous fantasy trope.
Okay, I got one.
Go on.
No written history. Everything that we come up with is like oral remembered, but it's not written down anywhere.
That's interesting with the steampunk stuff because that may make it like post-apocalyptic then.
Yeah,
Like there's religious cults that keep the steam train going.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's cool. Colin, what do you got?
Man, I'm super tempted to go like no magic, man.
I was thinking that.
But that might be a bit much. That's pretty broad, isn't it? What about like no organized magic? So like no magic colleges, no Harry Potter, no kind of so you can have this like wild hedge magic stuff.
So we are allowed to discuss a little bit here. So I was thinking, based on what you said, is like no colleges, but maybe you have to be taught by. Maybe you have to be taught.
But nothing's written down either, so there's no written So no written history. Does that mean there's no writing, or just?
Well, we don't know yet.
I said no written history. I can foresee how that fungal-based life may be able to pass along information.
Yeah.
Which also might be a reason they're hunted into extinction.
Yeah.
Quick, get the fungus that gives us knowledge. Oh, wait, it's alive and sentient? Fuck.
Well, this is stuff we can suss out in the
in the events. And...
Yeah. Now the key thing is, again, oddly enough, none of this would have to appear in our history. I'm sure it will, but we can't write anything that would actually contradict it. So we can't say suddenly, hey, there's forest elves and whatnot. So we can discuss and negotiate. No one should be unhappy about what winds up added to or banned from the palette. So the only thing like I'm a little bit hesitant on is it seems to be getting we have giant intelligent apes, werewolf tribes, and fungal-based elder life with a level of steam level of technology. And I guess maybe my question, Kevin, regarding the werewolf tribes, would you see these as human? I mean, or would this be...
Perhaps the elves turn into wolves. Perhaps the elves that are not there. Perhaps the gorillas turn into werewolves.
Yeah.
It could be, or it could be the... these could be the harbingers of the humans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right, yeah. The humans could actually be werewolves. They're like
that's how the humans kick ass. They turn into half wolf, half man things and eat fungus people.
And if they're werewolves, if it's like traditional, a bite spreads it kind of stuff, I imagine that if there is a civilization that would have had that stuff, then they would have managed the spread, because you can't have everything be a werewolf. Otherwise, so maybe it's, this is getting into events and stuff, but I don't see that as irreconcilable with the rest of the stuff. I don't think it's the fungal stuff that turns into werewolves. The giant apes, maybe that has an effect on them, but I see it more as connected with the humans. If they're coming in here, that gives them the advantage in this wild, kind of place.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I don't have anything. See, I was kind of thinking werewolf tribes is like separate from everything, even separate from the humans. So, okay, if they're werewolf tribes, maybe among humanity for now, or we just say werewolf tribes.
Let's say werewolf tribes, and we'll figure out whoever
Yeah, we'll
gets to
figure
go
it out.
first.
Okay,
Will
got it.
put their
All right.
mark on it.
Sounds good. So, does anybody absolutely hate something that we put on the palette?
No.
Nope.
No. Okay, great. Then we are about to do the first pass. So group decisions are now over. Each player now gets to add more detail to the history, creating either a new period or event. Players can go in any order they want. And so here I would suggest that we can go.
Let's do same order.
Okay.
Just for
I'll
now.
do the first one. Yeah.
First round, Robert goes first, and then Kevin, and then me, and then Colin.
Okay.
Yep.
Let me just write that order down because it will change and some other things just to be more fair. So
Okay.
Robert, Kevin, and then it was Arlen and then Colin.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I can make either a period or an event. Let's see. I want to throw in a period, and the way it suggests doing this is you talk first, and then you write. So my idea here is that I want to create a period where humans, and this is kind of getting back to a little bit of our discussion earlier, where humans achieve an uneasy truce with, let's make it interesting. Let's say humans achieve a truce with the fungal elder life, and we should probably come up with a name for it. Kev, since you've mentioned it, any names pop into your head?
I don't know.
If you just want to think about it for a little bit.
Yeah. Give me a second here to think about it.
Yep.
The
Okay.
mycelium.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm grasping for a portmanteau here because that's really what.
Yeah. It turns out rare enough that there's no fungus people name generator on fantasy name generators.
The Shatakites.
Well, because I think it's going to be they wouldn't have a name for themselves because they would communicate by pheromones and spores and stuff like that. So it would be the name that would be imposed on them by the humans or the other things.
Right. I think we could probably suggest that we can put this from the point of view of the humans for the most part, maybe, as far as naming things.
Mm.
But so my idea here is that humans create a truce. Actually, let's make it a little bit more specific than that. Humans create an alliance with the fungal-based elder life against the giant intelligent apes. All right, so that's my basic idea there for the period. Does anybody have any questions specifically about that or think it's not specific enough?
No, I mean the idea is that we detail out what the issue is there because we've kind of gone into conflict. I say the humans have gone into conflict with these apes. That suggests because they formed an alliance with these fungal folk.
Mm-hmm. Fungal folk.
So that makes me wonder why the fungal folk and the humans felt a need to ally with each other.
Yep. And that can become a period in between the first two periods now. And if you'll notice, I've created it and I put it in the middle. And you can always create a period in between any other two periods, even if kind of as long as it doesn't contradict something else. So,
And do you decide? So, as you've come up with that period there, Robert, do you decide if it's light or dark because it's your period?
I do, and I have to, but I do have to tell you why. I'm going to make it. One thing is that they also suggest sometimes you make it the opposite of what your initial gut reaction is, just to make it more interesting. I'm going to suggest that this is actually a dark time because by not doing this, the humans would have been wiped out, and effectively they're allying with the fungal folk very, very reluctantly. Maybe the fungal folk.
They're clearly arseholes, they're fungal folk, aren't they? I mean,
Yep. So I'm going to make this dark. And
it's not much room for negotiation.
yes.
Boo! Boo!
Fun guys.
Well, now we have, okay. So that's that first. So I actually added the word reluctantly. So humans reluctantly form an alliance with fungal folk. Okay.
Yeah. Hence the dark.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see how they could have formed such an alliance.
Okay.
So next is Kev.
All right. So I can add an era or I can add an event.
Yep. And an event would have to be within one of the periods.
So the era, let's add an era later to the end of the time span where the true goal of the fungal folk has come to light.
Okay. And it should be, let's see, how do I want to say this? So you should say what that goal actually is.
Well, the reason that the predecessor civilizations and the ape civilization fell and why they were opposed to them is because the fungal folk need to interact with they grow off of dying things. So they need to do that, but they don't need them to develop and destroy the environment. So the fungal folk have been the ones behind the collapse of every other civilization prior to it. And this is before the humans learn that that they interact with and interface with the other civilizations only to collapse them once they've started infringing on their actual lands.
Okay.
Think of like black mold in your house. Black mold. Imagine black mold, but as a civilization that both grants access to an incredible access of history and knowledge and whatever else and other whatever powers we want to say they have. But at the end of the day, all they really want to do is help you crush whatever the one was before and then slowly let your civilization pass.
Okay. Now trying to think of how to describe that as the period. I
think then it is the birth of the black tide.
Okay.
And that's when the hidden bit of shared collective memory that everyone had access through them finally kind of came to light through the efforts of somebody or something. That might be an event that someone could describe.
Yep. So when the hidden bit of shared memory comes to light, basically.
Something that they've never, they didn't know that. And it's not only whatever ones we've listed here, likely before the coming of man, there were hundreds of other civilizations that came, rose, and then fell to the black tide.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to actually leave that as birth of the black tide. And the specific thing you just mentioned, which was that something came to light, basically shared memory came to light, that would actually be in an event. So at some point that would need to be created if we want to go that way.
Okay, so Arlen is up next then.
Okay. Yep. Because then you could create the scene within the event, and we could role play it out. And Kev, is this dark or light?
Dark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just fill it in black automatically whenever you do this. And if you want to change it,
Yeah.
feel free.
Well, he did say that at the beginning.
Oh, for
Yes,
sure.
yes.
He did caveat that.
Not a lot of sunny, upbeat turns in my narratives.
Yeah. So actually, maybe we want to call it the period of the Black Tide.
I like the alliteration of Birth of the Black Tide better.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Got it. All right. So Arlen.
All right. I think I'm going to add a period between the human migration and the alliance with the fungal folk, and we're going to call it the reign of Gorkar the Ape King.
Okay. Well, and that's actually an element. I
Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
Monkey
That's
Kings.
what everybody wants. Everybody wants the Gorilla King who's making the trains run on time, I guess, since it's steampunk.
Monkey Mussolini.
Okay. So Arlen, could you actually write that out?
Oh yeah.
sorry, the period name, for me. Partially because I'm not sure how to spell that the name you got, but the element that I was pointing to that I really like what you did there was naming things. Try to be as specific as possible. If you create someone, try to name them, and because that'll make the history feel more real. And importantly, we might remember that, and then we can explore the let's see here. We can explore Gorkar, at other points during the. So the reign of Gorkar, the Ape King. Okay, and what were the other elements that you said about that? It was.
Well, he made the trains run on time
Yeah, okay.
so that they could move the ape military around efficiently.
Okay. All right. That'll probably become an event right, again. So that's probably more of an event, but something to keep in mind. All right. Now it's on you, Colin. Are we going to have all periods? Or
Don't I have to justify why it's a dark time?
Yeah. Oh, is it a dark or a light? Yeah.
It is a dark time for humanity.
Yes.
Because it is a period of great struggle against the ape people. And the fungus people, maybe too, but
and their mighty train schedules.
This is
it's the chaos worshipping humans who just want freedom are forced to follow the train schedule of Gorkar, and they can't stand it.
So I've got an event,
okay,
and it happens during the oppressive reign of Gorkar the Ape King.
Yeah,
and this is when the humans discover this strain of lycanthropy. They no, I can't really say that, can I? Yeah, because I can do that later. Yeah, I can go back in time. So so the event would be an outbreak. There's an outbreak of lycanthropy.
Okay.
I guess that's how it works. You get an outbreak, wouldn't you?
And we want to say among humanity.
Among humanity. And I'm guessing. No. See, I'm going too far with this, aren't I? So the event is there's an outbreak of lycanthropy among humanity. I don't need to say any more than that, or I don't need to.
No, like if we want to explore, the actual event, the actual when people discover it, that might be a scene.
And I want to say that this is a moment of light, because people start to realize that some of these lycanthropes have got an uncanny strength and stuff, and they can, maybe resist Gorkar. But I don't want to go too far with that.
Yeah, great. That's perfect. I think. Yeah, it's really hard to do what you just did, Colin. I think, in that, say it's like, oh, you want to explore the period, events, and everything underneath of it all at the same time. And,
yeah, you kind of get it's easy to get a little bit carried away in your own mind there, isn't it?
Yep,
And
yep. And basically, unless it's actually written down, it doesn't happen. So we know what Kev was kind of thinking of with Birth of the Black Tide, but if it doesn't get written down or expanded, as far as we know, it never actually happened yet. So
if these mushroom men want to have some impact,
yep.
it's a bust out some events for them.
Yep. All right. So the first pass, I believe, is done. Right period. Yep. Okay, great. So now we're gonna really get into the game itself, which is in the overview of play. For every kind of round that we go through, the first player will become the lens, and the lens declares the focus, and that focus will be in play for the rest of that round. So a focus is just any part of the history you're going to explore right now, and it can be broad. It could be a concept such as war. It could be as specific as Gorkar the Ape King, and if it's Gorkar the Ape King, it still has to be something about him. It doesn't have to be directly about him. It could be something about how humanity perceives the Ape King, or it could be a scene where people are discussing the outbreak of lycanthropy that they're seeing and how that could be used to rise against him, or something like that. But at some point, everything you create during this round would have to be about Gorkar the Ape King.
Would it always be a sit? Is it about making scenes now?
No. It could be anything. It could be, like, for instance, you could do a period in here about you can make a period, for instance, that was about Gorkar's father, or maybe the previous king raising Gorkar, or something like that. So it's probably a little harder to put in a period, or
with a focus, like a focus.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a kind of rules question.
Yep.
Can you only build one step at a time? Like, if I wanted to do a scene, I would have to have it be about the outbreak of lycanthropy right now. I couldn't do a scene about the birth of the Black Tide right now because we don't have an event in it.
That's correct. However,
Okay.
The focus, the lens actually gets to do. The lens gets to make a series, 2 nested items. So whoever the lens is creates a period with an event in it, or an event with a scene in it. And then everybody else gets to do one thing for the rest. So basically, it's allowing the person who really wants to explore, for instance, the birth of the Black Tide, to go in a little more depth.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. So the overview actually has it as that I should be that person to do this. However, it does feel like Kev already had some strong ideas about the birth of the Black Tide. So if he wanted to jump into that, I would let him to do that. So Kev, if you want to go and declare the focus to be something that would allow you to explore birth of the Black Tide in more detail, we could do that.
All right. So I don't really understand what I'm doing right now. Am I adding an event, or?
So
you do a focus?
First thing is you have to describe what the focus is, and it could be as broad as the fungal folk, for instance.
Okay.
Or it could be specific, or it could be referring to the Black Tide if that's a specific type of event that you're thinking about.
Yeah, and we're going to focus on the Black Tide.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to put a item over here on the side. Sorry to put you on the spot there, Kev, but I felt that you had some good ideas that you might want to flesh out before we forget about them. And I'm going to put in the focus is going to be a diamond. So this is the black tide. All right.
Okay, and then what am I doing next here?
So now you can create either a period with an event in it, or you can create an event with a scene in it.
Okay.
So you're creating two nested things, basically.
Okay, so I can describe the scene and then provide the context for the event afterwards.
Well, why don't we do that's actually a good way to think about it. If you want to talk through it, yes, that's fine. And then we'll go back to describing the scene when we come to it. So really you should create the event first and then the scene.
Okay, so no. Okay, then you've answered my question.
Yep. Yes.
So the event is the realization that this is part of the birth of the black tide. Yep. Lycanthropy was a fungal infection.
Okay. Ooh.
This has been a long game by the fungal folk. They are not just, the zombie fungus that grows into ants and what. It's like that, but magical, because it can actually rework the bodies. And again, the discovery that this is likely has been done before. The other downside to it, the event though, is not the way that the revelation was manifested is when the protectors of humanity, the champions of humanity, as a pack, were revealed to be drones. And all the lycanthropes turned on uninfected humanity. Oh, I lost you there, Robert. Can you guys hear Robert?
Sorry, there I am.
Okay.
I muted myself with the microphone for a moment. So, discovery that. So the actual event is that the human drones turned on the rest of humanity, basically, right?
Any infected lycanthropes turned on humanity.
Okay.
And as the scene I'm picturing is just, this is the, phalanx of wolves walking along, and then they stop and kind of stutter and then turn and, all across humanity.
Well, let me describe more specifically what a scene is in a moment, but I think we can fit that in. I just want to make sure that I capture what we have here. So human drones turned on the rest of humanity because...
Well, lycanthropes. The lycanthropes are drones.
Lycanthropes who turned out...
Human lycanthropes. Sorry. Because they are drones caused by the black tide. Does that more or less sum it up?
Yep.
Lycanthropes turned on the rest of humanity because the black tide.
So are they the black tide then, Kev?
I think the black tide is the spreading. It becomes more obvious that the spreading fungus, not only through their bites but through other things. Imagine a not airborne but like contact fungal infection that turns you into a mind-controlled werewolf.
Mind-controlled fungal werewolf.
Yeah.
So, not fungal, but okay. Did anybody think we were going to be having this when we started this? I don't think so.
Nope.
Yep. Now, I'm going to assume that this is dark because it's Kev.
It ain't good.
It ain't good. Can I have to ask? Do you go to therapy? What's your therapist? Okay. All right. So now let's go to the scene. I love it, by the way. This is awesome.
Does it surprise anyone that I've incorporated dogs into our epic history?
Maybe we should name one of them after what's her name? What's your dog's name again?
Anna Banana.
Anna, yeah.
Way ahead of you.
Okay, got it. All right. So I put the scene under. Now the way a scene is developed is that the first thing is you have a question that you want to ask, and it can be it can be, but it should be fairly specific. And like, what did, I mean, it can even be how did humanity, how did someone just discover that the black tide was the cause for lycanthropes?
Well, I also see, like, not only the black tide, I see having multiple meanings to it, because it's not just the fact that the infection itself or the fungus is a black, comes in the form of a black mold. I also see it as like, if these things occupy a privileged position, and they have access to all of the knowledge that the living beings have too, they would be in the best position to turn all the lights off across the world at one time, right? Like, this is the, it may have been a mystery in this world up until then. Like, well, how the hell could they still keep having steam trains? Like, how did they lose the knowledge of that? Why is there no written history? Well, that's when the black tide comes, and not only is it the infection, but it's also lights all across the world suddenly go out. They would target those with the greatest knowledge and things like that. So they would know best, with the shared knowledge that everyone had been tapping into, how best to.
Right. Okay. That's cool.
So would a scene be like?
So let me give you an example of a couple. Oh, go ahead. Go.
If that was a fact, you could play out that scene, somebody discovering the magnitude of this fungal threat.
Right. Let me run through the basic 4 steps of the scene. The first part of a scene is to state the question. So what's the question you're trying to answer through the scene? Then you set the stage, which is when does the scene happen, and review any established facts that will be necessary for the scene. Like a lot of the stuff that you.
I have an idea. How does humanity survive the black tide? Because that's, I mean, like, how would you possibly get beyond that? But building on what Colin said, the setting would be a
discovery.
fungal alchemist's lab. And let's say it's someone who they've got some condition or something that prevents them from interfacing with the fungus, with the shared network and whatever else, the way that other people had.
Yeah, they got some allergy or something.
Yeah, it's some aberration, so that and they're probably part of the ruling class of the lycanthropes, Okay. And maybe they, to keep in with the things, maybe they keep in a jar a giant monkey head. Like a repository of the knowledge of the great apes.
If he's like studying the fungus, he's got to be like a war criminal or something, right? this fungus scientist. If the fungus are people,
So can I back us up a little bit? This is stuff that should actually come up in the scene itself.
Kev, you're getting carried away with yourself, mate. You're not.
No. What I think is this: the reation we need to have the context, or like we need to have that to figure out what's happening in the scene, because the context is important. Yeah. So
it could change. It could change as well.
Yeah. And what I think the
So the setting's a lab, isn't it? The setting is like this lab. It's a weird lab.
The setting is a lab, and what if it's not just one person who's unable to link? What if it's someone who is opposed to the lycanthropes, and it's a
it's a blood group. Could it be a blood group thing?
Yeah, it could be. And then if they're because of their weird blood typing, they're the ones able to get through into that, the hidden areas of the collective knowledge that the things have. So they actually learned, oh fuck, we're just the latest in this series of civilizations that this thing is going to annihilate. And as a result of that, they developed antifungal devices.
So it's looking like the elder race that is destroyed by the humans, instead of being the apes, could theoretically be this fungal thing could be overthrown in this tale.
Could definitely be why it's a light ending as opposed to a dark one.
Well,
Kev's dark ass fungus is eradicated.
Hey, you measure your heroes by your villains. So,
Yep. And by the way, that does point out something. It's like not just the person who creates something in here is the person who can destroy it. So anybody can create something, and anybody else can also destroy it at any time. So
I think that's the scene is once it comes, we see that there is, in this lab that's been opposed to this, to the dominant human civilization. They are the ones who have at least some hope of pushing back the black tide. So it'll be a light scene. That'll probably be my only one. So enjoy it while it lasts.
So that was laboratory. So it's a laboratory opposed to the dominant human.
A rebel lab.
Rebel laboratory.
Okay.
Rebel human laboratory. Okay. Now.
So the lycanthropes have turned.
Yep.
So these people in the lab are like survivors of this.
Well, I think it's right because of the structure. It's like in the same historical moment, right? So maybe it's a little after, or maybe it's a little before, but it's not like they get like a warning about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So just to kind of push us ahead a little bit now, so we kind of got the set. We kind of have the set stage part done. Next is for Kev to choose characters, and here you can either require or ban characters. So player making the scene may specify one or two characters someone must play in the scene. That player can also name one or two characters that no one can play.
You know what? I'm going to pass to the next person. I'm not really interested in exploring I think we've set some good posts down for this. I'm not really interested in exploring the scientist and whatever else, so I'm happy to pass to somebody else.
Well, in that case, what you can do is you make a dictated scene, which kind of sounds like you did, where you basically pose the question and then you specifically answer it, so that we don't actually play the scene.
Okay, well, have we not done that, or?
Well, that's kind of what you did, I think.
Yeah.
You did end up making a dictated scene. The idea behind most scenes, and I probably should have been more clear about this, is that it becomes a role-playing. It could be a role-playing moment.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I'll leave it to the other guys, and for you to come up with something that you do. I'm not really interested in exploring. I'll spare everyone my faux Nazi scientist shtick. And
okay. Well. See, the interesting thing is if you made that the character, just pointing out for a future scene, the person who makes the character is actually who sets the one or two player characters that people have to play, is the last person to actually choose a character. So you may not get to play that person anyway. But
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I'm fine. One of you guys, go ahead.
Yep. Well, no. What I suggest is that we just make this a dictated scene, because it sounded like Kevin basically answered the question. Which would you be able to summarize that in a couple of lines, Kev? How does he find the way to survive?
Yeah. I mean that's. I don't know. I mean the something to the effect of like that outsiders escape the tide.
And when you say outsiders, you mean people who can't be infected?
Correct.
Okay. Outsiders, which are...
Or survivors.
Yeah. Can't be infected. And other survivors. Okay. But so if it's within the human laboratory, it's that I'm just trying to be clear here. So the way that the scientist discovered would this be like a serum or something that he could give everybody?
I think it is. Well, we haven't decided what the tech level by this point is. So
No,
if it's a fantasy setting, I'm picturing it more. It would more be like a salve or something, or.
Well, or I think let's embrace the structure of the game and say that that's another event. Is that this event is discovering. This scene is sort of like the moment, like in the film, this is the sort of eureka moment. There's something happening, and then we have another event that is actually dealing with that, right?
Sure. Okay.
Isn't that sort of that seems to me to be the way that the game structure lends itself to the story.
Yeah, I think that would work. But I guess I'm trying to be a little more. I'm trying to get the link between the question and the answer here.
We maybe focusing too much on the structure though. Like if this, I think we've got sufficient information about this. Maybe let's move on to something else.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yep. All right. So the next person then will become Arlen. And Arlen, you simply have to create an event, a period event or scene that has to do with the Black Tide in some manner.
Okay. All right, let me pull up the name generator. All right. I got an idea.
Okay.
So this is our sort of answer to this is right though we found out that the lycanthropes turned on humanity and the Black Tide is responsible. This is at kind of the other end of that arc, and we have Avalad. Here, let me just type it while I'm working on it, and so Avalad performs the miracle of reconciliation.
Retcon. Reconciliation.
Yeah, he retcons everything and suddenly it's better. And then let's move these guys over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do like that. No, we're not going to call it. We're going to call it not the miracle of reconciliation. We're going to give it a name.
And is this going to be under Birth of the Black Tide or?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me move the one period.
Yeah, you move it however it's supposed to be laid out. I thought I'd type instead of trying to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, got it.
All right. So this is Avalad, he's kind of right because we don't have written history about this time and these people, so we don't know if maybe I'm going to leave it up to a scene, I guess is the way to say, whether he is a scientist who has the breakthrough, or perhaps he is like a some type of cleric or something and communes with the divine, and somehow there is a divine answer to this, but somehow Avalad performs this miracle and the lycanthropes aren't killing humans anymore. And that's sort of the end of the Black Tide's kind of period of greatest threat.
Okay.
That's what I think is going on.
Okay.
So he's stemmed the tide. He's
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And let me just add that little bit because it is important that that actually states what that is. So and ended the Black Tide.
Yep.
Okay.
So, are you going to do? Is there a scene that goes with this then, Arlen?
Not
yet. You could do a scene if you want to do the.
Yeah, because only Kev can do.
Only
two.
Kev gets to do 2 right now, and then we're gonna keep going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, what do I get to do?
You got
already
to do
did it.
two. You had to do Lycanthrope's turn on the rest of humanity as an event and the scene. But that's because you were the special player for that round,
Yep.
and you got to say that we all do Black Tide stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yep. Now, one other important element. I mean, it might look, just to recognize here. So we have the event followed by this. Like, it can look like that's very, very quick, but at the same time, Birth of the Black Tide is a period that could be centuries long.
Yeah,
So-
I'm seeing it as a while.
Yeah.
When it gets to me, you'll see why. But
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, it's your turn.
Right. People can still put things in between. Yep.
It's me now. So I want to do an event, and people. This is not like Order 66. So it's not an open and shut case of the lycanthropes. There's a period of resistance.
Mhm. So you're going to put an event in between.
Yeah, so it's in between. It's an event in between, and it's the.
I'm making things.
It's going to be a rise. It's going to be a rise of a leader. Now, Avalad performs a miracle at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Avalad's mother. So,
So, real quick, Colin, are you going to be making the event, or should I?
if you could,
Okay.
If you could do it, man.
Yep.
Or you could just point me in the right direction. I just got boxes
I got it.
and
I got it.
he's all over the place.
I got you.
So I think Avalad's mother. I reckon she's like she's one of these outsiders that have. She's got this outsider property, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this scene with a crazy scientist guy. So the lycanthropes, they turn, and then there's this struggle. People run to the hills. They're trying to find this way to survive. There's this human laboratory where they're trying to desperately come up with a solution. So maybe she's a scientist, some kind of scientist, but there's no written history. Maybe it's not a Nazi guy. So maybe it's Avalad's mother was maybe in that previous scene.
Mm-hmm.
And she's made the discovery and somehow. Okay. Okay, so the event can be Carla.
Okay.
Carla.
With a C or a K?
With a K.
Okay.
Carla the Wise.
Okay.
Gives birth to Avalad. Is it Avalad or Avalad?
Yeah, Avalad.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I shouldn't say much more than that. Carla the Wise gives birth to Avalad. We know Avalad is later on coming in.
And you
he ends the... Sorry, go on, Robert.
I was just going to clarify. So you suggested that she was the scientist, the lead scientist, or maybe just a scientist within the original human laboratory.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm overstretching my.
You aren't. like it really helps us to know who she was.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So Carla the Wise is a resistance scientist, and she gives birth to Avalad.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've got ideas, but I'll keep them to myself and see if anybody's kind of that
Okay. Yep.
bears
Great.
fruit.
Sure. And is that light or dark?
Oh, that's light.
Okay. Oh, we have the balance. It's like Kevin, dark, with one light.
It's 4-5 to the
Yes.
dark,
Yes.
or 5-4 to the dark.
Yep. So
So we do another round now, right?
well, actually, it's my turn. So
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm going to create a scene, and it's going to be and I guess I should ask before I do this is, and I'm open to either one. I'm happy just doing dictated scenes because they're much quicker, and maybe teaching the ins and outs of the scene, of role playing a scene might take a little too long for the amount of time we have. If anybody actually wants to basically do free form role play, feel free to let me know, and I can turn this into an actual role play scene.
I suppose we could just chip in with cool shit.
Yeah. We'll just, if there seems like something we ought to add.
Okay, great. So the question,
paint a picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the question is, the question is, why does Gorkar, and I know this isn't about Gorkar, it'll get there. Why does Gorkar allow the black tide to infect humanity? So, kind of where I'm thinking about with this is Gorkar finds out, he actually knows at least something about the fungus and something about the black tide, maybe not all of it.
Because he was the reigning king at one point.
Yes. Yep. Well, this is actually during his reign. So
it's still about the black tide, but you've gone back in time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. This is in case you guys haven't refreshed. It's a scene under the reign of Gorkar, the Ape King, and it's under the outbreak of lycanthropy. So why does Gorkar maybe actively allow? And kind of where I'm going with this is I'm thinking that Gorkar does this to save his own people. In other words,
because we know Gorkar's got this network of like secret police that are out there.
Yep.
He knows all what's going on. He's got his finger on the pulse of.
I'll be right back.
Right. Yep. The other element that I'm thinking about, so it could be he could actually have been infected.
Ah.
And so the setting let's see.
So Gorkar could be becoming.
I'm thinking the setting is his throne room in this cave, or throne cave. Yeah, so the setting is his throne room, and the people present would, of course, be Gorkar. An emissary from the fungal people, fungal folk. And a human slave.
Oof.
Okay. So I think my answer is that the emissary, now they have to have a way to communicate with other creatures. And I'm thinking that maybe even they discover like the way that their pheromones they emit, it almost becomes a little bit like telepathy with other races, but more like images. Like they have such a nuanced control over the smells they generate that they can create fairly large and complicated pictures in the minds of those that they're talking with.
Yeah, so they've got enough empathy to know what
Yep.
smells generate what images in the target's
This
mind.
is the apes?
No.
The
The fungus.
A fungal
Oh, okay.
folk.
Yep.
I know
So
the name
we're
for
in
this
the-
scene then. Monkey mind farts.
Yes, more or less. Yes. And I'm thinking that that the image or scene that they project to him is that they have. So I kind of want to think about this in the long term. Like we might think that, maybe the apes live long, but the fungus live really, really long, and they might even be more like an uninterrupted, chain from the very first fungus folk all the way up to here.
They don't really die.
Yes.
They're
And
either
so-
there or they're not there.
Yes.
It's the same thing. There's not a civilization of the fungus. It's one thing.
Yes.
It's just the fungus.
Yes. And so they basically present the idea in his head, and he believes it absolutely. We don't have to go into why. That if he does not basically present the human slave to them to infect, then he himself will be infected. And he sees an image of his entire kingdom, basically fungal, unthinking apes. Because that's how it would affect the apes. They would basically become zombies. So the black tide can affect different races differently. So he sees that, and knowing that it's still a bad idea, he presents the human slave to them.
And maybe he was on the maybe with his steam technology, he was on like the cusp of being able to take out the fungus. He had people working on.
Yeah. Maybe he's
he's a sort of fascist dictator, and he wanted to stomp out the fungus anyway.
and he's confident enough that he thinks that, even doing this, it can't be that bad. It can't, destroy his empire that quickly. So, and they're slaves. He doesn't know how fast that all this would actually spread.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in fact, he doesn't even exactly know what it would do. The fungal people actually do, but he doesn't.
Mm.
So
he allows the human slave to be infected because he is given a vision of the potential of his own civilization being infected and makes the choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to write that out. I'm trying to bring this line up further. I'll do that later. Text. Where's my text box? There it is. And we will make this. We'll actually make this feel light because he thinks he's going to be doing well. The humans think they're getting something useful, and the fungus are happy. Everybody's happy. Yes. So
Don't fight it.
yes.
Embrace the dark.
Work hard. Well, we as viewers would be very, very
We would see through all this.
yes.
We'd be shouting at the screens, going, "No,
Yeah.
foolish, ape dictator, man."
So he saved infection of his own empire, thinking, being confident that he can destroy Mongol folk first. We really got to come up with a new name for these guys. We could just call them the Spores. No,
I thought about that myself. Or the Spore.
Just the Forever Folk.
Forever Folk? Sure. I like it.
They probably present as individual creatures, like myconids or something like that, where everyone thinks they're just it's a race of things that come in a lot of diversity in how their bodies are shown and whatnot. So that gives the setting a wide variety of different things you can encounter in it. Some would go feral maybe, or appear to go feral, whereas at the end of the day, it's all one thing, where one organism that some of them maybe have lost the connection with the network or whatever.
Yep. Cool. I like it.
Yeah, the things that crop up are just like because they're the fruiting bodies, aren't they? They're the fruiting bodies, the little mushrooms and everything else. But beneath the surface is just that network of mycelium.
Okay.
Oh, and how many of them may be fallen and forgotten other species too? That has been.
Yes. Oh, we seem to have created the Borg, actually, but
Mushroom Borg.
yes. Okay, so Kev, I know you're usually the one who does this, but we have been playing for over an hour and a half. Does anybody need to take a quick break?
I could use a break.
Yeah.
And we'll be going into the next
round.
Relatively soon. We have one more thing to do before then, but after that. Yep.
Okay. So back momentarily, folks.
Yes. What you think so far, Arlen?
Say again?
What you think so far of the?
It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's pretty different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's I was kind of thinking.
Kind of a cool, weird thing going with the story, and that's neat.
Yep. Like I said, I don't think anybody could have ever anticipated this from the one sentence overview.
No, and things like that they intrigue me. The way that something can. I mean, it's not like there's masses of us. There's only 4 of us sitting here chucking in ideas and.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a 4. He suggests between 2 to 5, but 3 to 4 is really the ideal, apparently. And because you would go too long between having something to create yourself if really you had 5 people, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was just talking to these guys. I was saying, did anybody think that, based on that original sentence we wrote, that you could create something this crazy?
It certainly wasn't what I visualized. I had like what's that film where the humans rock up and smash up like the tree folk?
Avatar?
Avatar, yeah. That's it. Well done, Arlen, getting it on that.
Yeah.
Mate, you deserve a medal for that.
Tree folk. Well, that's kind of so. I thought you were thinking sci-fi, but because you mentioned Battlestar Galactica earlier, so I figure your mind is still on that.
Well done. Good deduction.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. If everybody's back, where the heck did I put the rule book?
I should write pub quiz questions based on that. They'd be really hard to get the answers, wouldn't it?
All right.
What is Colin thinking about right now?
1 second.
We're just gonna get the rule book. All right, so I when it's my turn, I've got a good idea for something that's gonna force you guys to do a little bit of role playing in this role playing game.
You can't pay me. You can't make me. I've already started thinking about the corruption of the 38th hierarch of the Church of what's your guy who saved the world?
Avalad performed the miracle of Enconism.
Well, allegedly.
Allegedly, maybe.
If it's reformed Avaladism, then there is some dispute as to whether he actually did it or whether the god did it through him.
Oh, why don't you go fuck yourself, Martin Luther?
I use my standard action to nail theses.
I don't exactly know where this started, but it was fun.
Oh no, we're just joshing around, filling airtime.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I seem to have managed to misplace the book, but basically we already know everything that we need to do. And I think instead of there was one just little element that you could add to it, which is somebody can create a legacy and then basically create one thing for that. But you know what? I'm not going to do that.
I think we just did that in jest.
Yes. Oh, God. So I think we'll just go to the next round. And what this means is it's now Arlen's turn to pick a focus. You will get 2 things to place, but they have to be nested again. So a period and an event within it, or an event and a scene within it.
They have to be nested.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I got an idea. We're gonna keep that in the back pocket for something else.
Okay.
I think what we're going to do is what is our focus going to be? What is our focus going to be? I think our focus is going to be on is beginnings too general?
Nope.
Okay. Well, then we're going to do beginnings.
Okay.
Everybody's got to do something beginning. And what I'm going to do an event within humans migrate into the lands of the elder races.
Okay. And do you want me to do that, or stuff, or are you doing the physical stuff?
Oh, Arlen, I am so sorry, but the first thing that popped in my mind is the song Funky Town, but won't you take me to Monkey Town?
Well, it's going to be a little like that, because we're going to do the event. Let me put it on here and start typing. So the event is going to be
Sorry, I moved it. I moved the period just a little bit.
Oh yeah, I'll move okay. All this. Let me try to select the whole thing.
Yep.
All right. So our event is, if I can edit, first meeting between the elders and the humans.
We haven't excluded other elder races yet either, have we? We just said that there are monkeys, there are werewolves, there are fungal people.
That's right. Yep.
Which is...
The only thing we know is that they can't be Nazi hippies.
Yeah.
No
hippies.
Humans.
See hippies.
The humans, they're migrating, and they're like basically totally out of resources and food and stuff, and they realize that some developed civilization exists because they've found like artifacts like a pocket watch or something, and they head in that direction, and they find the apes and beg for gifts.
We call this
Mage. Humans are doing like pilgrim style at the first Thanksgiving. They're out of resources, and they come to the apes, and they basically say, we need food, and we also need all this cool stuff that you guys have going on, because you've got like trains and guns and who knows what else that we'd like to have too.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, and then the scene is going to be played out, and
real quick, just does anybody have any questions or?
Oh yeah, do we need to?
Yeah. Nope. I don't have it, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
So all that you're stipulating is that this is a meeting between the elders and the humans, and they're throwing themselves on their charity.
They're throwing themselves, and on the charity of the apes in particular.
Yeah,
this is the first meeting between humans and elders. So they must, like, we can infer that like when the humans meet the fungals or the forever folk, that happens after, or maybe it's in the moment if the apes are already dealing with the forever folk. That seems like that's maybe it, but somebody else can decide that.
This is good. I've got a twist, man. I've got a twist.
Yes, yeah. So we're gonna do a scene, and we are going to do the ape. The ape. He's not like the king or anything like that. He's like a scout or something. Some like super low ranking in the ape hierarchy guy. But because he is he has this technology. The humans can't tell who is high or low. So he's like the first ape that they really like get face to face with. So we have the leader of the humans as one character, and we have this ape who doesn't have any like power or authority or anything, as the other character, and they're going to have to. The human is going to. We're going to do. I don't think we need to do like the whole negotiation, but we're going to do like what does the human character ask for, and what does the ape respond with, and who wants to play who.
Okay. So your intention is to actually create a played scene?
Yeah.
I'll play human. I'll play the humans. I'll play the humans.
Colin. So the question is,
Please,
what
sir.
do the humans ask the apes for?
Okay.
And Colin is going to be our human leader who needs a name. Colin, do you want to come up with a name, or do you want me to go to the generator? Oliver. Excellent.
Oliver.
Oliver.
Please, sir.
Now the thing is so you created that was the one character, and actually the two characters. One is the
there's a second character, and the second character is this ape who doesn't have any authority or anything like that, but he's the one that the humans first ask.
So the other element about these scenes is that everybody gets to choose a character to play in, and so that means that, for instance, those two characters have to be played, but then anybody can create any other character that could be played.
Yeah. So you want to.
So, for instance, I could be this not the sidekick, the other maybe another human at the meeting who is completely distrustful of the apes and thinks since it's just one ape that why not just kill it.
It's giant ape, though, isn't it?
We'll call one of them Oliver and one of them Charles.
It's a big ape.
It's a giant ape, but there's a lot of us.
But this is a low ranking one. Did we say it was a low ranking one?
But you guys don't know.
We don't know that.
We don't know that.
You can tell. Yeah.
So whoever's playing the ape could say how big they are.
Kev will play
the big ass ape.
Wait, what's going on? Who am I playing?
You're gonna play Jirkar, the ape scout.
Are you making me play a jerk?
You don't have to play him as a jerk. That's on you, buddy.
His name is Asshole.
Okay, we'll come up with a different name. That was just
that's
the first
fine.
pass.
I'm just being an ass.
Okay. Jirkar, the ape scout.
Okay.
And Oliver, and Robert? What's your character's name?
Let's see. I am horrible with names. Drawing a blank. Let's just say Trevor.
We're not going to do Charles for Oliver Cromwell and Charles III.
No, how about Trevon?
I was thinking Oliver Twist, to be honest.
Yep.
Wouldn't you be Fagin?
Yes. We'll say Trevon. Trevon.
All right.
Now, can I impinge on you a bit here, Arlen, to create the scene and the actual scene underneath and fill in that information?
Do you have any character notes for me for this, Arlen, too, or can I just go wild with whatever I see this ape being? You
can. However, the ape responds. We don't know what he says to the humans until we play it out, right? So who knows? We know some stuff eventually happens, but this is like unrecorded. There's no recorded history, so who knows how this goes down?
So let me add a couple of things to make this to maybe make the question a little bit more interesting. So if you say, so the way this goes is if the question is what did the humans ask for from the apes, as soon as that question gets asked, the scene is over because you answer the question. Okay. If it's more like what was the result of the first meeting, of the request, then maybe there's a little more leeway in how.
So was that the question, Arlen? And is that the question? What did they ask?
My thing is I'm thinking sort of thematically about like the relationship between the apes and the humans, and I like from this human perspective, like we don't give a shit about what the apes do except what we want them to do, if that makes sense. So what we care about in our history is what did the humans ask the apes, and how did the ape respond? Okay.
So we have to add the bit that how did the ape respond?
Yeah. So we'll have a scene, and we're not in like pristine jungle. We're in territory. The apes have like have done deforestation on like this section, and so there's like stumps of trees and there's grasses and stuff, but it's clearly worked land, right? If that makes sense. Like it used to be a forest, and the apes have cut down all the trees. They're lumberjacks have come through here, and the humans first they walk into this place, and then up from behind one of the stumps steps one of these apes, and he's got like a gun and some type of paraphernalia. Or do they have guns in steampunk time?
If you say that he has a gun, he has a gun.
All right, the apes are going to have guns because in Almeric the apes have guns. Those aren't apes; those are creatures of another world who just happen to be Robert E. Howard ape types. Anyway, ape steps out, and he's got a gun.
We can tell it's a steampunk because this ape has a top hat.
Yeah,
and a monocle.
So actually, Arlen, let me break in for a second. This part is actually up for Kevin because Kevin's the ape, right?
Okay. Yeah,
so, and then, guys, then just nothing but a torrent of abuse here.
Yes,
Kev, you're a jerk. Kev, you're an ape.
You're an ape. You're a jerk ape. So, so before the scene starts, we should all briefly describe our character in like 1 or 2 sentences and what they're thinking, basically going into this meeting.
Okay.
So, not necessarily that they know that the meeting is happening. So basically, let me make sure I understand this, Arlen. So the humans are kind of exploring this area. They have not yet seen the ape.
Yeah, they haven't ever seen an ape. They've seen like the evidence of the apes, but no apes yet. And they come to this place, and they're walking along or traveling along or something, and the ape steps out and says something to the humans. Okay.
So,
and Oliver, who's the leader, knows that you guys have like no supplies left, and you've got to figure out something right away to do about this problem, right?
Okay. So So Oliver, Colin, you can describe Oliver and what he's thinking at that moment.
Yeah. So Oliver's the leader, but he's the leader of 2. It's just Oliver and Trev. They've been sent out. And they're looking for whatever they can. They've come from the surface. What does that mean? And they're now stalking through this cultivated land, and this is the first time. This is like maybe a rite of passage. This is their first time they've been sent out on their own, and Oliver's a little bit older than Trev, so he's kind of been given the responsibility of calling the shots, and they're frozen. He's frozen. Hold on, Trev. What was that? There's something over there.
And so Trev is, of course, along as well. Younger man, fairly thin, and looking more so because of the supplies that have been disappearing. But he, maybe not as much as you might expect, because he also tends to steal. When rationing came, he actually stole things to help himself. And by nature, he tends to be, he basically is all about survival. And his mentality is, if we can take something, we should take it and help ourselves.
You know what they say? Trev? 2 is 1, 1 is none.
Yep. Yeah, but this is what's in his mind. It's not necessarily he hasn't let Oliver in on any of this yet.
Oh.
So this is just how he thinks.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin, what you can make up? There was really just the first thing that came to mind.
I honestly can't remember. All I have in my mind is Jerkass. Is that what his name was?
That was not his name.
Jerkar.
It was Jirkar.
Jirkar. Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine then. So Jirkar is he's pissed. Where our scene opens on him, he's sort of muttering to himself because He's been given basically the duty of keeping pests off of this region. He got far too drunk last night and made a bit of an ass of himself to his lipping off or talking poorly of the ape that was in charge of this work gang. It's a logging operation, and he's fairly confident that he's going to get fired anyway. So at this point, what's running through his mind is, how badly do I need to stick around just to get the pay from this before I can fuck off somewhere else? And that's when he hears this sort of... So what he's here with is a gun that he doesn't really know how to use that well. He's going to sleep out in the cold. His hangover is still bothering him. But he hears this sound off from the edge. Gets up, double checks to make sure he knows how to work this stupid thing, and starts making his way over to figure out what the sound is. Not because he really is interested in doing his job, more so that he doesn't want to get bit by something that's coming out of the forest.
Okay. And then he steps out behind us, right? And Arlen, what are you playing? Anything?
You muted, mate.
Muted. Am I playing somebody, or I thought I just created and you guys?
Yeah, sorry. Arlen, technically you can also have a character, but you don't have to. Like, if you want to be in the background, and there's also sorry, I should have explained that.
You can play the role of narrator.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna be here's what I'm gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be Jirkar hasn't cleaned his weapon recently, and there's a little bit of the fungus on it.
Okay.
I'm that little bit of fungus that is sort of thinking back to the rest of the fungus and
Awesome.
Aware of what's going on.
Okay, great. That's perfect.
So you may not be the only fungus. He's scritching his ass as he's walking over towards the sound. So what does he see as he walks upon or comes upon our humans?
Well, Trev is talking to Oliver, and he says, "Man, it's like, what are those?" It's like you see these two steel rails basically next to each other, or not steel, probably iron rails next to each other, with wooden slats between them. He says, "What the hell is that?" It's like, does that have anything to do with that weird sound we were hearing?
Beats me, but what I'm more concerned about is that rather large-looking hairy creature that's heading this way, scratching its ass.
So, to my eyes, these tiny things, which are like a quarter of my height, are just repulsive. Like, malnourished, shaved, bald. It would be like what... I keep using this as the example, but if you Google the image for wet koala... it's just the worst.
Enough, I only just Googled that earlier today.
It's the worst fucking thing. They once you see it, you really can't unsee it, and that's what he's, I think, thinking is just like, these things are disgusting. It's instead of a nice, healthy, properly proportioned ape with lots of fur in the appropriate spots, these things are bald and they're tiny and they're moving. It's just God. So I kind of like make some noises and gesture with my gun, like, get the fuck out of here. Go, 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 go.
And, of course, Trevon hadn't seen that. He was looking at something else. He's not very observant. And he looks up and is like, oh, shit. What the fuck is that thing? It's like he literally starts backing up away from it.
Oh, and I'm gonna add one, right? Because there's no, written language or anything, right? There's not necessarily a shared language. You guys are going to have to figure out how to ask for something without being able to say, "Hey, give me your gun" or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Trev, these are the tracks. These are the tracks that we saw.
Yeah, but it's a fucking animal.
Maybe we could trick it into following us. Following us to the pit, Get it to chase us to the pit. What's got spikes in it?
I think
Spike Pit,
we
of course.
we see as well that the ape's finger grazes up against the trigger finger grazes up against the fungus, and as is appropriate for a ne'er-do-well ape with very little education, he has very poor trigger discipline, and that fungus-covered finger is now well in front of the trigger. He's now hoping to gesturing again towards go, get.
But well, okay. It looks like he just wants us to go, though. I don't think he's going to follow. We could try.
All right. Well, let's scarper.
And of course, we have no idea what the gun is. So
No, we don't know what that is. No.
yeah. Okay, sure.
I'm going to suggest that because you were interested in the train tracks, that I've now positioned myself between where you need to go, like the trail leading back to wherever you came from, and the rest. The rest is thick, overgrown jungle. So you really got a choice of.
So
Yeah. All right.
we can't take you to the pit.
No.
More what I mean is that if you guys want to get past, maybe that's why you have to either go through me, you have to run deeper towards the tracks, or towards the camp that I'm supposed to keep, pest free.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll
back up more towards the camp because we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So, we're obviously trying to get away from you, Mr. Ass Monkey.
Scritch.
Yeah.
Can we see the camp? Could we maybe see some signs of this gorilla camp? Oh, not gorilla.
You can probably
giant
smell the cookhouse isn't far away, so there's the smell and the odor of cooking. The meat and stews and whatever.
All right, so that's what brought us here.
Yeah. Well, some tracks and a smell. Well, look.
Just
he's not in the way. He's not in the way.
Yeah.
We could go that way. Give him the slip. Go that way. Head for the food.
Sure. And Trevon actually, he turns around and starts going that way, but looks over his shoulder.
Hey, no. So it looks as if he's going to fire at Trevon.
And we literally have no idea what that is. So,
and Jerkar the ape, he can feel there's a weird it's almost like he kind of, maybe, I don't know if he looks at his finger or something, but he can definitely feel there's sort of like a weird tightening around his trigger finger, like it's less under his command.
Boom!
Now.
The gun goes off.
No, and he can't fire.
Well, no,
okay.
Well, I think I pulled back when there feels like a weirdness. He pulls back, and that poor trigger discipline goes off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that, so you get to say who it was aimed at, and then that person gets to say what actually happened.
Last, I was pointing at Trevon.
Okay, Trevon. Okay. So I say that the gun goes off. And the bullet actually catches him in the foot. Obviously, it was probably aimed somewhere else, but
it's a monkey bullet though, so that's going to blow that foot off.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay. So, foot has gone, and Trevon just falls in complete shock, and it is staring at his leg and the blood coming out from it.
Oliver stops. He turns around. He hears this. Whatever. There's fucking smoke from the end of this pipe. His buddy has got his foot blown off, and he turns around. He throws up his hands, and he's like at the ape. What's happened? Trev, what's up with you?
Trev's like, I don't know what the fuck that is. It's like I heard the sound, and my foot, it's gone. And
Don't hurt us, mister. Don't hurt us. We just come for some food. We've come for some food. And he's like waving his arms at this gorilla thing, and he's looking down at Trev's foot, and he's just, and what he's asking for, he's just asking for mercy. That's after this first meeting. That's what he's asking for, mercy from the ape man.
As he's here's it was a bit of a surprise. He's shaking his hand, trying to get that numbness to go away or the tightness. But so one of them is on the ground making all these noises. The other one comes scampering towards him, is on the ground, and it's gesturing. It's almost like an ape, the way it's gesturing and it's making sounds. Are you hungry?
Yeah.
Are you hungry?
And are you like doing like a hand signal?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I see him, and as soon as you sort of do that, he's going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Stop,
reach into his rucksack and bring out a little something, and he'll break it off, and kind of hold it down. Here you go. Careful.
And he comes. Oliver comes running over, and he's like on his knuckles, kind of scarpering, inadvertently looking even more ape-like as he sort of stumbles because he was on the ground, and as he gets up, he kind of ends up going on all fours. And he inadvertently looks really quite ape-like at this point.
So he feeds him, and he's pleased by what's happening. Kind of like,
and Trevor's like, "What the fuck are you doing, Oliver?" It's like, "This thing shot me. You're eating from him."
Just getting some food. I'm getting some food.
He laughs, and seeing how friendly and how cute this thing is, it's almost like an ape. He feels a bit bad about the injured one. Oh, but he can't let an injured animal continue to suffer. So he puts down a bunch of food in front of Oliver. Carefully walks over, looking back, smiling. His ape-like smiling, kind of loping along. And puts a bullet in Trevor's head.
Trevon's head, yes.
Yeah.
Trev!
Oh, gone.
And so,
all right. Oh, and then I want to. So this fungus intelligence that is watching the scene and intervened in such a kind of in that moment. We sort of see like almost kind of in the film version, like the film reverses for a second. We see Oliver on the ground, but this time it's not so ape-like as it is wolf-like as he's running along towards the food.
Okay.
So maybe that's interesting. So maybe they instinctively know and can see what will happen if they infect. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, but something happened and it's important, and somebody else gets to decide what it was.
And you get a close up of Oliver getting the food and troughing it down with a little ching in his eye.
So the answer is mercy and death. Well, mercy for.
Well, there was a kind of mercy there.
Sort of.
I think it establishes the relationship as animals, master and pet.
Yep.
And pet, yeah.
Asked for mercy. Oliver asked for mercy. And is this a dark or light scene?
Fucking Madison ruined it.
I think it.
Well, the humans may have starved otherwise, right? So it's
the humans would have starved otherwise. And in the same way that kind of like everybody got what they want. Well, Trevon didn't get what he wanted, but his sacrifice will live on in the kind of tales told about this moment. Yeah. And obviously it'll become like a heroic saga or something like that. And so maybe that's kind of the best we can give him, but everybody else kind of got what they wanted. So
he did kind of admit at the beginning to being a bit of a rogue and a villain, and maybe stole food that weren't his, and maybe he kind of got his cup up.
Okay, so Oliver asked for mercy. What was the ape's name other than
Jerkass?
Jerkass.
Jur.
Jurkar.
JIR KAR, like Gorkar's spelling.
Okay, Jurkar. Jurkar gave him food and killed Trevon. Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah. So now everybody else gets to do something related to beginnings, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep. So, Colin, you're up.
Okay, this is an event. Human pathfinders.
So what is it under? Is it under humans migration?
Oh, yes, under the migration.
Okay. And is it before the first meeting or after the first meeting?
It's before the first meeting.
Okay.
And a human pathfinder patrol discover entrance to the underworld.
Okay. I need to make myself some more space here. Actually, I like this thing quite a bit. There you go. Okay. Oops. So I just drew a line that I had no idea how it got there. Okay. So a human pathfinder found the entrance to the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so just finds the entrance. Okay. Got it. And
I mean, and the implication is, so I mean, that is the path to salvation. So it's the finds entrance to the underworld and path to salvation.
So when you say path to salvation, what specifically is that?
Well, they're on this migration.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
And I mean, I can't. I would need to inject a. I don't know what I would have to inject to make that clearer. Maybe like there would be a scene.
Mm-hmm.
I could expand on this with a scene.
To the underworld that they feel might be their salvation. That humans think is their salvation.
Well, so I need to be more specific, don't I?
Yes.
So
yes. Yep.
I know what I mean. So basically, what I'm trying to say is they discover a way to this world that we're now talking about. So it's an entrance.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So all this takes place in like a Pellucidar kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is all like hollow world. So the humans are on the outside, and they've fled the outside and come into this inner sanctum kind of.
Nice. Okay. Yes. So human pathfinder finds the entrance to the underworld, which is the domain of the elder races.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Generally, you do want to be as specific as possible.
Yeah. You said that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And do you want to give the guy a name? After all, his legend might live on.
Yeah, he definitely would be. What's a good Pathfinder name? Well, he wouldn't have been a Pathfinder when he was given his name.
Yeah, if we want to do an homage, call it John.
Yeah.
Hard to not think of it now, isn't it?
Damn you, Musa, John the Pathfinder.
Was that what is that ON or OHN?
I don't know.
Yeah. If it's John, it's JON.
Yeah.
I can picture him, but I don't know how you spell his name.
Okay. Are we actually going with John, or do we want to?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's, my keyboard is suddenly not activating properly. Come on. There we go. John the Pathfinder. Okay, great. And light or dark?
I think it's got to be light.
Okay, great. All right, and I'm up next. Beginnings. Let's say.
So that qualifies as a beginning, doesn't it? It was the
Does,
beginning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep. Let's see.
Just wondering if my eye could be any more bloodshot.
Sorry. Organizing, moving things a little bit to give us a little more room.
Gotta love that when you sneeze and have that burst
I
blood
feel
vessel.
like that's like the first blood vessel I've got going on there or something. Jesus.
So
You really, you see what this is? It's my last nerve. You're getting on it.
I got poked in the eye once, and I woke up in the morning, and half of my eye, the bottom half of my eye was red, and the top half was white.
Oh man!
I got up, I went in to brush my teeth, and looked in the mirror and thought, "What the hell is that?" Jesus.
All right. Sorry, I reorganized here a moment. Now I think I want to make an event under elder races disappear from the land. It's near the end of our history, but I hope it still qualifies as a beginning of sorts. Sorry, trying to make the item. All right. The event is humanity I'll put this. Humanity. I'm not sure if this is an event or a period. Humanity discovers the. I don't want to say potion. I want to say solve. I want to say something like that. The
Elixir.
Yeah, but so what I'm trying to get at with this, it's like, it's probably Borg related, but the idea of introducing, they've at this point in time they've discovered that the fungus are all one being, and they find the way. Oh, okay. Humanity discovers. I know there's going to be a fart joke or something in this, but basically creates smell that destroys. After all, they are a heavily smell-based race that destroys the forever. Come on, my keyboard just went. It basically destroys the forever folk. And the idea being that since these things are linked, when one smells, the rest of them smell.
A fungicide.
Yeah, basically destroys the forever folk, allowing them to take the fight to the fungi. It's just what's called a pheromone to sound a little better, and that way people won't be making fart jokes.
If you think such a small thing, well, keep me from fart jokes.
Yes.
Badly mistaken.
Yeah,
Poor
you, my
misguided.
friend, have not played Ash with me for 2 years.
Yes. Now it says nothing about what happened to what actually ends up happening, but it's the start of the
Downturn.
it's basically the start of the downturn, and it
Okay.
doesn't say anything about what happens to the apes.
Okay.
So now it's Kev's turn.
Okay, so my beginning is, it's, you mean event. It is the beginning of the tide. Inserts between the events of the lycanthropes turning and Carla the Wise.
Okay.
And what it is when Carla met the crumbling crone. The crumbling crone was the last remnants of a rival civilization of fungus. Nearly exterminated by the Forever Folk. The crumbling crone is the last vestige, and has, in all the time that they've struggled since the crone was defeated by the Black Tide, she has not extended, or it has not extended the its infection, and it
So this is another fungus.
another fungus, and the crone offers Carla the way to drive them back. So it's the beginning of a new relationship.
Way to drive the Forever Folk back. Okay. And this isn't the thing that kills them, but it is the thing that ends lycanthropy eventually.
I don't know what, I'll leave it to figure out. I think the crumbling crone is a key. And I think this is a secret. This is not well known. This is not open to the public, that the crumbling crone lurks. Having, had their entire civilization brought down by one infectious species, I think that humanity would not be eager to jump back in. But Carla the Wise, under the direction of the crumbling crone, and
This
perhaps
is what
through
makes Carla wise. The fact that she's prepared to listen to this. That's what makes her wise.
And I mean, what better incubator for a weapon against the Forever Folk than a womb? This is a light scene.
Okay.
Or event.
Okay. Event.
What the?
Did I not mention the catechism, or the what do you call it? The, not catechism, the communion that takes place when the 38th hierarch of the Church of Avestat takes some of the crumbling crone into them.
And it gets dark fast.
The more things change, plus qu'elle change.
Okay. So I think that ends this round. And Kev, I do want to be just a little bit more specific on this. So the thing is, we do look at this from a bird's eye view, so we know what that thing that she offered, and you said it was the womb. It was.
Well, that's infringing on another one. I'm not making implications for events that are already established.
You can. You are perfectly allowed to do so, as long as you don't change the event.
I think the idea of a faith and that is based on a divine event that is actually,
Okay. So Avalad is basically the offspring.
I'm thinking it in kind of a like Dune-esque way where
Yeah.
like he's actually like he's more a coming of a new, because beyond just infecting the species, he actually may be a blending of them, and kind of be a new, a herald of a new kind.
Painting of the forever folk and humanity. Is that
And
more or less captured?
Carla is that was Colin. You came up with that. I'm interested in thinking. Do you think that Carla would have had? Was it a professional, a just a necessity relationship with the crumbling crone, or could it have been a romantic relationship?
Technically, Kev, you're allowed to say.
Well, I
It's
know
like
I'm interested. You know what? I'm not. I don't. What I don't want is I don't want to take any of the importance of Carla's role in it. I think that she's a full and willing actor in
Yep.
in saving. It's a decision that was made, and more to the point, this may be why the crumbling crone was seen as by this group that wanted to cast off the Forever Folk and the Black Tide. They may have seen her as a viable alternative because it's not forcing itself upon them. It's a willing blending.
Yeah, I mean, I put her in there so that you guys could come up with something, and you've come up with something. So whatever you think, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say something, but I
think
feel
it's
like
if at some point this secret comes out well down the history, people will dispute as to whether what her reasons for doing this were: self-aggrandizement, saving humanity, relationship with the crone. Who knows?
Well, there's probably a deep question, sort of like teleological issue within the Church of Avalad. Like, for Avalad to be born, she has to get pregnant, right?
And
so
one of the main differences between the Forever Folk and the Crumbling Crone invests in one being. One being.
The Forever Folk being like the hive mind. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And that may be not like sorry, not to riff on this too much, but I mean, it may actually be a byproduct of some conflict between the Forever Folk and Crumbling Crone back in the day, that the Crumbling Crone can no longer extend itself beyond a singular being.
Okay. So do we want now? You said that there would be dispute about this in the future. However, we aren't in the future right now, so we know the truth. So, do we want to go with? Sorry, did you want to go with that? That it was a relationship.
Nope, I'm not going to say one way or the other.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So that is the end of that round. The next round is Collins, and so you get to create a focus.
Do you mind if we take a quick comfort break before we carry on with the next stage?
Sure.
good thinking.
We only have 15 minutes right now anyway, correct?
No. We've got until 5. It's a 4-hour session.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah,
that's
6
right.
o'clock local. So we'll be back momentarily, folks.
All right, sounds great.
Hey, Steve's in chat. Steve, what's shaking, buddy? Nice. I'm finally not the last one back. Let's check in with chat. Brandon, what's going on? Yeah, I to be honest, it's Brandon says Battlechimp Potemkin and Furious George. Yeah, both. I've definitely thought of Feng Shui in that context, and that's part of the reason, because of the monkeys with machine guns and cyborg monkeys, why I picked up Feng Shui in the first place. Jacob, what's going on? Howdy. Brian, how you doing? Discovering Microscope actual plays and Dungeon Musings. One Ring. Oh, nice. Happy coincidence, Jacob. That's great. William, what's going on? Always want to see how the game. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And Steve, of course, we miss you like crazy, buddy. William, awesome. So, Colin, I was stepping on your moment when we called for the break.
That's right.
So yes, Colin will get to choose the focus and for the next round.
So I was going to call the focus resistance. Is that too broad? Are we cool with that?
No, it can literally be, anything. So it can be a concept, it can be a person. So
the focus is resistance.
Okay.
The concept of resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna have a little look over here on this truce, this alliance.
Mm-hmm.
So humans reluctantly form an alliance with the forever folk against the apes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a period.
Yep.
So if that's a period...
Yeah, that should probably actually say more like...
yeah, that's got a little bit of an event-ish vibe, hasn't it? We
could just say humans alliance. Human alliance with the forever folk against the apes.
Yeah, to imply a more of a time span.
Yep.
Yeah, less
So
of
they're working together. They're working together.
And more. This is the period where they're allied.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Good catch.
So I'm wondering how that came to pass on it. Against the apes. So we've established in a scene with Jerkar that the apes took this benevolent, they saw the humans like these amusing pet-like creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So I reckon there's some kind of subservience. Okay, so the humans thrived in this, and Gorgar at this point, he's allowed the black tide to infect humanity because part of the reason is that humanity is starting to get a bit successful. So what I'm thinking is I'm picturing that the apes begin a kind of a cull. Gorgar thought that perhaps this black tide would achieve this, and he was maybe led to believe that with these smells that were put into his mind. Perhaps he got the wrong end of the stick, and it's not happening fast enough for him because he's a man. He's an ape who wants things to happen when he wants them to happen, and this black tide is not what it was cracked up to be. It's far too slow. There's humans everywhere. And like in the present day, we might control grey squirrels or some sort of invasive species. The apes just begin this kind of cull on humanity to control them. So the event is he would dress it up to be something good. So it would be Gorgar's final solution. Or is that too dark?
Yeesh.
That's pretty dark.
It's pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
What if it was like something euphemistic, like the euphemistic terms that the communist Chinese in the 50s and 60s used, right? Like where it was like cleansing, like
yeah, something like that. Yeah, final solution.
Clearing the garden or something like that. Or
that's the vibe I wanted, sort of, but not so final. Like you say, it's like a cleansing thing. I like the cleansing idea. So how would you say that?
Cleansing by cleansing? No.
What culling? That has more like culling, because that's got a culling the weak kind of feel to it, you know?
Yeah. So it is a human
because you're not like a culling of a herd is not exterminating it; it's getting it down to a manageable size.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So because that's he's not going to wipe them out because they have proved to be amusing and one thing and another and kind of useful.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we could say calling of the humans to...
And if it could be
a rationalization. It's like...
What if it was the culling spring? Like he timed it up with something. Spring. So that may be just the term he gave it, and then in humanity's name, something they could always think of in spring is just that's a catastrophic event where there was a partial genocide that occurred at the hands of the apes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he makes it sound kind of nice and positive.
Yeah.
Well, the apes anyway.
Yeah.
Gorkar. So Gorkar is calling of the humans. And
the culling spring. Yeah, so the event is the culling spring.
Okay. Calling the spring. And for purposes of the event, we do need approximately how many do you think he I'm just trying to think. Maybe we don't need to go into a bunch more detail than that since we've discussed it, but
do we have a theme? Sorry, is there a theme for this phase?
Yeah,
it's resistance.
Love it. Okay.
So I'm putting it under this.
Mm-hmm.
This is the catalyst that leads to the human alliance with the Forever Folk against the apes. So his plan, it's a bit like in this country we've got a cull on badgers to try and knock back TB in cattle and stuff.
Yep.
His scientists and steam experts have decided they need to cull 2/3 and just keep a third. The strongest third.
Okay.
Get rid of the rest.
Got it. And light or dark?
That is as dark as you like.
I see that gauntlet thrown.
And so now the other item, though, if Colin, is that now you get to create a scene within that event.
Yeah. So so the question. So that's so I'm picturing this is the cat. So I want to keep this on resistance. So this is the catalyst to finally force the human, because the humans are like they're jogging along with this. They're thriving. They're getting their food. They're kind of they got to be subservient, but they're actually thriving and mating and everything else. They're getting fairly well on with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then this culling spring comes along and things suddenly don't look quite so rosy in the garden. So the question is, is it a who or a how? We know the why. I'm struggling there, guys.
Well, so I've got a kind of idea as a sort of what if Gorkar's culling is not like killing lots of people, but it is like I kind of jogged my mind because your thing about like the communist
sterilization,
more like a one child policy or something.
Yeah.
And what happens is that the humans, their sort of resistance becomes like they just keep on doing their thing and
surreptitiously have children.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, how do we have a second child?
Well, so remember it from the point of view of a scene. Like this is going to be specific people.
So it could be like, how can we have a second child? And it's because these humans. So this is okay. So that's the question. So you wonder, well, how's that?
Here, stop me if I'm going too far, but I got an idea for you, Colin. So, like in ancient Rome, the whole proletariat thing was basically the proles were the uncounted people, right? They didn't know how many of them there were because there were so many of them. What if the humans it's like that, and our scene is the resistance to like the census taker who's trying to figure out exactly how many humans are there so that we know who's having 2 children and who's not. Yeah.
So the question is, well, how many kids you got in there, kind of thing. And you got this dwelling that's maybe like a cave with you chop out as your family extends. You just chop out an extra room in this underground underground city place. You know, like a colony. Everybody's like stacked in there, and you're just carving out little abodes. And you know, if you get an extra kid and you're running out of space, maybe you got to do this excavation in secret. So it's like the Escape to Victory or whatever, with filling up your trousers with soil and stuff, and you know, trying to get it out past the giant apes that are monitoring all this stuff. So yeah, secret, dwelling underground with secret excavations and stuff. Yeah, and so the characters you're going to be, there's going to be the some sort of enforcement agent. So the what would he be? The inspector of population. Population control inspector, or so what would that be? The PCI. The PCI. PCI represent. No, but it's just called the PCI.
If you wanted to have more of a like the sort of like banal but sinister, associations, you could go with something like, the Bureau of Prosperity. Because we're keeping them in line so that you can prosper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be proper like...
Or Ministry probably has more sinister. Ministry of Prosperity.
Yeah. And you're going to have the family. I guess that'd be it. I guess you'd have the family side. You like have mum, dad, and the firstborn. And we know what firstborn kids can be like. So...
And the question is, do you want to make this a dictated scene or have us play it out?
What did I say the question was again? How many kids do you got in there?
Well, so it really should be a question that we're asking about the event, like what?
Could be a how did you conceal the children?
Yeah.
How was this program resisted? In keeping with the idea of resistance?
Yeah. Or were they able to conceal the children?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you could resolve that.
Yeah. And I mean, technically, none of us are really supposed to be giving call-in ideas, but I get that it's the third hour of a strange system, and
there's not much fun in watching me struggle like a twat.
Yeah.
We might as well all, it's still my idea, but
yes.
you're chipping in, just give me some assistance, man. So
yes. So what do we think the question is?
Does the family what was it? What did you say, Kev? Did they conceal?
How did they? Oh yeah, how did they resist the program? I think is the nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's because that's what we're exploring. We're exploring that idea of the resistance.
Yep. Got it. Although we could name them. How did I want to put the term "this family" resist the calling? Being that we're really going to be looking at one family, and that might be how everybody did it, but
well, yeah, that's how they do it in the movie or the miniseries version or whatever. They show one family and just let you extrapolate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm imagining we'd set out the roles. Anybody got any particular? We could just blow through this.
So Kevin had to play the ape last time. I'm happy to play. I will be CGI'd Andy Serkis.
You mean get to play the ape? That's great.
Get to play the ape now.
Yeah.
Can I play nosy neighbor?
Oh yeah, nosy neighbor, the snitch.
Yeah. Then I can. Firstborn or
mom or dad or
you gotta be the parent, I think.
Yeah.
That means Colin gets to be the inspector, or Arlen's being the inspector, isn't he?
Arlen's the inspector.
Yeah.
I'll be the firstborn.
Okay. So
the assumption here is there. I'm assuming that this is a family that has more than one child.
Yeah, they got to be. Yeah, because
got it. Just because
they're resisting.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
So I'll kick it off. I'll be mum.
Mm-hmm.
And she's out the back in this freshly constructed little area that they've hollowed out, and there's sort of she goes in there to kind of feed the baby because it's a little bit quieter. Because there's always banging and crashing going on with the industry that's going on, and the firstborn, little Davy, little Davy, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out. There's been a lot of the ministry's been round. I've got to go and feed your baby sister. Keep an eye out. You know what that neighbour's like? Nosy so and so. Nearly said something else.
How old do you think Davy is?
It's up to you.
Okay. Let's make it really fun. Let's say 4.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. You promise.
Davy,
You promise your mum you keep a good lookout. Yeah.
yeah. It's like I love to talk to everybody.
Yeah, but don't say nothing. Just keep, if you see anybody coming, tell mum. Tell your mum.
Okay.
Right.
So now we see.
And I'll put you in the mindset of the 4-year-old. He's like, oh, somebody new is coming here. I can talk to them. It's like that's.
So I should have faked a door knock because the dog's going berserk now.
Yeah, given my ape name construction thing is all I can think is to name my ape Asswipe now.
Oh man.
No, he's not going to say his name to them because they're like, why would you say it'd be like a farmer telling his name to a cow or something like that?
Yeah.
That would be weird.
However, I will point out that we remember this is a history, so we know the person's name.
His name is Elliot Pritchard Jones.
Yes. Just from the perspective that somebody could go back and explore something about him if we wanted to.
Okay, so
we don't have to name him. Like if I really
we'll name him Ellie because Kevin suggested something like that.
Terrible.
And he's but he calls himself. They all call themselves architects. They are the architects of prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so he's got his whatever. I guess not like maybe like a clipboard or something that he keeps his notes on, and he comes to the door, and he's sort of it's like a tap, but it's a big ape fist, so it's sort of like a wham, wham.
Mm-hmm.
If nobody answers, he's gonna kick down.
Right. Yeah. So the 4-year-old Davy goes up to the door and pulls it open. It says, "Hi, you're big."
Hello, little one.
My mom said that you might be coming by, and I should, or that somebody might be coming by, and I should tell her. Can I go tell her?
Tell her that someone is coming by.
Somebody came by.
Somebody came by. Tell me, little one. Any brothers or sisters?
No. But I think my mom really wants to talk to you.
How about you lead me to her?
I'm clearly out of the house at this point because I've been watching for this all day.
Yep.
He thinks about it, and says, "Okay," but as a 4-year-old is wont to do, and apes should know this, having dealt with humans enough, as they're walking back, he says, "Mom, the ape is here."
Put the baby down super quietly. Spy through the kind of the thing, looking to see if I can spy the ape, and concerned about Davy. Oh no, this is the worst that could have happened. How could they have known about this? And we cut to a scene with the neighbor, maybe a day or sometime in the past, maybe having a chat with the bureau. Could that be a thing?
Yeah.
She's wearing baggy clothing. She's trying to minimize the amount she goes out, but I know that she's pregnant again. I can recognize when someone is pregnant again.
Is that so?
Yes. And I don't know where she's hiding it, but I can hear it even through the walls sometimes. And it's not that... I know their young one, their firstborn, he makes noise sometimes because he was dropped on his head as a child. But you only get one crack at this. And even if your egg is cracked, you stay with that. Or some similar metaphor.
And what was her name, Kev?
Estelle.
Estelle.
Yeah. Ellie is going to he's writing down, he asks the name and whatever, like, the family name and all of the information, and he's sort of looking through, and he's doing some mental math, and this is kind of, everybody knows how this works, right? You get extra food or extra something if you rat out your neighbors, and he's going through the chart figuring out how much Estelle gets, and and
you find on the chart that Estelle's already received this same reward like 4 times before.
Yeah. So he says, well, for your regular support of our program of prosperity, I think we can do a little extra this time.
Perhaps if my son Edmund he has been trying so very hard to get into the training program for the auxiliary. Do you think perhaps something could be arranged in light of the continued service that we offer?
I think Edmund will go on to make a fine auxiliary.
Wonderful, wonderful. I will keep myself hidden, but if you have any problems, you come let me know. I'm right next door to them.
Right, so then we cut back, right, and it's big old ape Ellie standing in front of what's the mom's name, Colin?
Doris.
And he doesn't. So Ellie, the prosperity architect, doesn't even like ask. He just starts off by saying, "You receive like," he says, like three rations of food per day. Is that correct? And that's enough. That's the 3 people's worth, basically, is what he's saying.
Well, has Doris come out yet?
Yeah. So the apes come in. Doris has.
Mom.
Yeah, we do the flashback, and then Doris peeks out, and I feel like she probably realizes the game is up. But you see this kind of lashed together door type of thing open up in the shadows. It just looked like a pile of stuff, but she kind of mysteriously comes creeping out from behind there, and it's like a scene that you've working with a bureau. It's a scene that you've seen hundreds of times. Desperation, people scratching out a little alcove, and she comes creeping out looking forlorn. It's all right, Davey. Mummy's here now. She'll speak to our visitor.
But can I talk to him? I want to tell him about my the little toy train that I have that looks just like their new one out on the tracks.
Can I ask a dark question? Does the culling get rid of the newest kid or the oldest kid?
Maybe it's Maybe the apes don't care.
I think what happens is the kind of like one of the kids, the parents are the ones who decide, but one of them is sort of like given up to the state, and that's what the auxiliaries are mostly formed out of, right?
It turns out your rations are paid in Soylent Green. Ground up second children.
Well, actually, if you wanted to get more, it'd be the first.
So, yeah, and probably at that point, she just looks and maybe looks up at this bureau ape with like pleading eyes. But I mean, the game's up, innit? The game's up.
So he starts with like, you're receiving three adults worth of rations per day at present, are you not?
Yes.
But this little one, he reaches down, pats Davy's head. He's
Davy
not an adult, is he?
He's not.
He's not. So I think 2 adult rations is, unfortunately, with the difficulties that we've had fully realizing King Gorkar's vision, it's hard to find enough for everyone. We're asking you to make a temporary sacrifice, but 2 adult rations per day will be plenty for you all, won't it?
But we'll starve. We'll starve. I mean, he's a growing boy. What is he to eat?
Well, we're all having to make sacrifices, and I think far be it from me to tell you how to divide up whatever food you receive, but perhaps you could eat a little less and he could eat a little more.
In the meantime, Davy wanders off, finds the train that he was talking about, brings it back, and starts waving it in the air like, see?
And she just like kind of glances surreptitiously at the alcove at the back, and then looks down at little Davy, and the cameras kind of zoom in on her face, just like the tears welling up in her eyes, and she just kind of like nods. I guess we'll work something out.
If you think that 2 rations per day is not enough, perhaps, members of the auxiliary regiments of the King's Army are fed not from the general reserves, but from the King's own pocket. Little Davy here, I'm sure, will make a fine fusilier in his day.
And of course, Davy, having heard stories about this, I would assume that sometimes apes come and talk to him about these things too. It's like, he's like, oh, that I could be a Fusilier? Awesome.
Technically, I think you'd be a monkey Mamluk.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
And I take it with that he's like holding out the paperwork on the clipboard for to sign.
he's got it all already like totally filled out and everything.
Yeah.
And he's got the pen and the clipboard, and it's ready for.
Yeah, and she knows these rations are a death sentence, so she just signs it and like collapses in tears on the floor, kind of thing.
And I think at that you also then see we to get away from the sad scene, we see this very, very well dressed officer in the young guy in the monkey Mamluks, not someone who's part of the corps, but someone who leads it. Gets home and Estelle greets him with this elaborate, like, oh, my boy, my boy, my boy.
Well, and maybe even who knows what role, because surely after the alliance with the Forever Folk, there's going to be some struggle between the apes and the humans. Davy and Edmund both may end up playing an important role in the future.
Possibly, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, so since we've kind of reached the end of this, so how did this family resist the calling?
Well, they just carried on and had.
Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. But well, I mean, they attempted to
But
hide it,
they resisted, so they ignored it. They ignored it.
ignored it. Basically pretended that their firstborn was an adult. You know, you say maybe knew that there were three. Like the records would show there were three individuals there. Maybe they were just hoping that they wouldn't notice that it was two individuals and a child.
If there is like a monkey Mamluk component to the military too, this could be part of the horrible genius of that kind of authoritarian system, where like it's not really intended to cull the humans; it's intended to build up a slave army.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They know the humans are going to do that.
A rule that they've brought in that allows them to kind of step in and pull this stunt.
Yep.
They know full well that the humans will keep on breeding, but this legislation allows them to come along and
and keep taking them and slamming them into the. And if I don't know what order we have here. I have something a scene that would be resistance that I really would like to add that I think would add into this stuff. If I might step on toes to.
Sure, I would be next, but I can go after you.
I'll be very quick, and this is going to build on an. I will leave it to whether the scene would involve Davy, but this is shortly after this, and it ties into the whole monkey Mamluk thing. The event takes place shortly after this scene, and the event is the last note of the scale song. And what this is a meeting between one of the final members of the Terran, with a PT race, a predecessor to the apes, who had writing, who had technology, who were taken by the apes, and this is their last hideout, centuries after they were thought extinct, was discovered, and their final act of resistance was to pass what they learned, not through the collective memory of the Black Tide and the Forever Folk, but through song. And they found some captives in the army and passed along this song to the humans, not thinking that they would keep singing it, but that it would infect the collective memory. And so this is the last time they were seen. When the last of the Terrans were discovered, they were going to be eliminated by the apes. No writing, no other technology. They've all lost it by that point when their race was mostly annihilated. But the event is the meeting of the Terrans with humans and passing along of the scale song.
When does that happen, Kev?
Shortly after the events that we just saw.
Yeah.
I think
that's the next event under Human Alliance with the Forever Folk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and we didn't mark it, but I think the culling scene should be marked as dark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think so this happens, and depending on the timing, this could very well be the next, when Davy is older and part of the monkey Mamluks. It could have been passed along to him.
Perhaps he drives a train in the organisation.
Yeah.
Well, Kev, I would suggest that be specifically mentioned then if it is passed along to Davy.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I apologize. My keyboard completely cut out.
Here, let me just do the typing for a minute while you're having keyboard issues.
Yes.
Okay. Terran with a P?
Yeah, Ptarran is kind of...
Terran civilization passes the song. I'm going to put it in quotes.
Yeah, the last note of the scale song.
Passes the last note of the scale song on to it would help if I could spell humanity through one of the called children.
You could just say Davy. So since that was specifically mentioned. Yep, there we go.
I suppose we should name that family the how did this family resist the culling?
Yep.
We should for clarity name that family, shouldn't we? Or no?
I'm not sure. Was Davy old enough to remember their name? Because they certainly wouldn't remind him.
Yeah.
Before he became part of the Monkey Mamluks, if he,
They probably take him well young. They probably take him well young so they can.
It was only like 4, right? So,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know whether that was signing for him to go then, or whether they take him later, whether they just take him instantly.
No, I think they take him right away, and
Right.
Yeah.
He's like the child taker.
no more association with the old life. That's that.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably drive around with a little wagon out the front and just.
Yep.
Yeah, we just got the train comes in, all the monkeys go out, and they all come back with little children.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. I love it.
And that is how the architects of the Bureau build the future.
That is how they build the future that we're all striving towards.
And just for the timing, it's supposed that during this time is when the lycanthropes must be part of the resistance, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. So then, okay, so I'm up because I think it was Colin, then Kevin jumped in, and technically I would have been next.
Sorry about that, Robert. Just wanted to.
Oh no worries at all. I think that was great. So yeah, I want to go back on the tropes a little bit. So kind of as almost a mirror image of this. So I'm going to put an event between Gorkar's calling the spring and the Terran civilization passes, and it's basically going to be. Actually, it's not going to be an event. It's no, it's actually going to be after the last one that Kev just did, and it's going to be relatively simple. It's going to be. We might as well make him a hero, right? Davy.
Man, who'd have thought David would see so much action?
Yeah. Like I said, that's why we named them, right? I was joking when I said thought anybody would. Sorry, something. Yep. I'm going to have Davy, the licking. Well, Davy is going to be a lycanthrope, and he will kill Gorkar.
Yeah.
There we go.
Davy and Gorkar.
Yeah.
Did you kill him with a slingshot?
I didn't even think about that. Sorry, I'm trying to make enough space for me to do this. Okay. Now, that's not a scene. By the way, I assume that the Terran civilization past last note is actually light.
Say again.
That would be a light or a dark scene for you, Kev.
I think that's light.
Okay.
I mean, it's from the Terran perspective, it's dark, but it's their final act of resistance against the Forever Folk and their monkey thralls. I'm not even sure the Terrans understood that that's what caused their downfall, too.
Okay, great. Put that in there.
Because it would serve just on a meta level. I mean, it would serve the interests of the Forever Folk if there's this constant cycle of rise and fall of the empires, right? But with no real progression of technology or whatever.
We're filling up light events. We're not all dark.
No.
No.
And
Getting the beats in there, the light and dark beats.
yeah,
Mm.
I would say this is a fairly light event for humanity anyway. So
When
Not so much.
Baby kills Gorkar, the last great ape king.
Mm.
yep, there we go. Last great ape. I like that enough. And that is also light. Okay.
Alas, poor Gorkar. We knew him, Horatio,
But we can always,
An ape.
revisit,
of infinite.
but we can always revisit him. He lives on.
Mm.
Nobody ever really dies. Okay. So that's me. And the next up is Arlen.
So we're gonna do kind of a play on the term resistance, because in the reign of Gorkar, before the outbreak of lycanthropy, an ape scientist discovers electricity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the Forever Folk have to start to speed up their plan and get like lycanthropy out there, start the sort of process, right? Is because otherwise these apes, they're going to advance out of the realm of where they can be dealt with by the Forever Folk.
They get too powerful.
Yeah, they're gonna get, electricity and all sorts of what we would nowadays consider like modern developments instead of steam power stuff, and they're gonna be
Your televisions and iPads.
Yes.
Do you want me to put it on, Robert?
Sure. Where is it going to be? I can at least cut and paste. Move stuff around.
Here, I'll shift stuff. It's an event under the reign of Gorkar.
Yep. Okay, but it's after the outbreak, but before the calling spring.
No, it's before the outbreak. This is why they.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, because they sort of started the outbreak.
Yep.
Although we don't know that. That's just hearsay.
Yeah. So now we know why they started. Good. Let's move that a little over. Okay.
Ape scientist discovers electricity.
Do we want to name it?
And crafts the first resistor.
Oh yeah, and this is why. Yeah, this is why they send an emissary to Gorkar.
His name Chimpala Tesla.
Teskar.
Do you want me to name him, Robert?
If you would like.
Okay. Let us call an ape scientist named. Hope if I can spell again. He has a kind of a human name. His name is going to be Harmon. That's who knows why it is that he has this kind of human name instead of the kind of traditional ape name, but maybe he's trying. Maybe he's like part of the prosperity process, right? He's trying to he's like a believer in the better world, and he's trying to reach out, or his family tried to reach out, or somehow he's like a true believer. Not in the like SS way, but in like the guy trying to make the best of this bad situation type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but he's a nice ape, and he discovers electricity, and then the fungus like Well,
So he's got a
After that
tan. He's
civilization-
got a tan-coloured leather jacket.
Yeah.
He's more of an orangutan.
Yeah.
It's because he has Star Wars on the brain. His name is Gapelin Urso.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, I think that's it for me. And that is a light event because ultimately the scientific discovery is going to be important for everything. Even though it sort of leads to this darkness, it's this kind of like moment of there's a really like wonderful moment where it seems like this kind of Gorkar's prosperity vision, it's not just going to be propaganda. It's going to be the real thing. And that's what this moment is.
Yep.
And then it gets dark.
Mm.
That's the telling thing.
It's interesting that under the dark period, we have 3 light things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, because we've got established that from beginning to end of these events, there's no written stuff. I think this is the height of civilization for this world.
Yep.
Right? At least technological development.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I think we've reached the end of this round. I haven't forgotten anybody, have I?
No, I think that's it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did yours.
Well, so we have 20 minutes left. I think it would maybe take too long to do the whole thing in focusing on a focus, perhaps. I would be the next person. What I might suggest is that each of us can do one last thing anywhere we like.
All right.
Or at the least not have me do 2 things, so not to take away from the rest of you, or most of the rest of the time.
Yeah, let's do blitz round. Everybody come up with something right now, and we're gonna.
You're still gonna pick a focus, Robert, because you haven't done that, have you?
No, I haven't. But I was suggesting more along the lines of everybody could pick something that interests them to kind of end this thing. So less of a focus, and so I had in mind. Let's see. Something interesting here. Let's see. Silas disappeared. Land. I'm trying to think. I had something, and now I'm trying to figure out how to say it. See, originally I kind of wanted to focus a little bit more on the Church of Avalon.
Yeah, there's so much here, really, isn't there? I mean, it's,
Yep.
you know.
Yep. Let's say, yeah. You know what? Actually, I'm going to put a period in here in between Birth of the Black Tide and the Elder Races disappear. And it's going to be humanity. Let's see. I don't know if I want to be humanity. I have in my head what I want, and I'm trying to. Okay, so basically the idea is that there's going to be an alternative religion that was created. It'll be long enough after the birth of the Black Tide.
Monkey Mouse.
Yep. Monkey Mouse.
Gorkon. He died for your sins?
Well, yeah, actually, and because I'm kind of thinking along those lines, because it was remembered, some people remembered as a time of prosperity, right? And now they're in, everybody doesn't have that anymore. And so it's basically a religious, for a time anyway, we're not going to call it monkey mass, though.
The Gorkarites are not. They're definitely fucking heathens, and we're gonna crusade against them to make sure that everyone's soul is saved by the truth of MacLeod.
Crush the ape abbots.
Exactly.
Cult of Gorkar.
Their infidelity to Avalad, who saved them from not just temporal but also metaphysical destruction, will be noted in the annals of history when we get the annals of history, because we don't have those yet.
Yeah.
But
Well, imagine that it's forgotten what was behind the Black Tide, and then it comes out that the crumbling crone is actually behind the church.
And so Cult of Gorkar rises and basically rules humanity. So there'll be this moment in between the two periods that appeared to be relatively straightforward, and now it's not so much so. Rules humanity. And wants to rejoin the civilization of the Great Apes.
Guerrilla Renaissance.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it. Does anybody have questions? Or I'm going to call this fairly dark because all the progress being made.
Oh, that's fine. I got something to add. If anyone else wants to go first, you go nuts. Otherwise, Okay,
I've got the scene that I wanted to give you guys a chance to act out, but I'm gonna let Kevin go first, and then we'll go back to Avalad, have a chance to re-experience truth while we deal with all these Gorkarites for a little while.
So I think
The Gorkarites.
Oh,
awesome.
Mine links into two things here, because one is the apotheosis of the descendant, like the ascended pope, or whatever you want to call it. So the hierarch of the church, the Messiah, whatever, the mold Messiah, if you will, actually apotheoses, and in the course of transforming, sends out spores which transform all of humanity into the Forever Folk, and ends with a new tribe of humanity arriving in Pellucidar thousands of years later, finding the Forever Folk.
Okay.
So it is the cycle of
repeating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so is that going to be? So where do we want to place this part?
Very end.
Very
end.
At the very end, under Elder Races disappear from the land. This is like the right, because this is the end of the Elder Races, because now they're not the Elder Races anymore.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
They're not the Elder Races.
Yep. Okay.
So you could just put rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Yep.
The spore cycle.
It's basically Battlestar Galactica, right?
Well, and there's nothing to stop. Yeah, who knows how time works down here?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So to summarize, so it's apotheosis. I can't spell, and I can't. My keyboard keeps.
The apotheosis bloom.
Apotheosis bloom. Okay. And underneath that, we'll say this is. Go ahead and summarize again for me, Kevin. I don't want to.
I think it's just it brings all of humanity into the evolution that the mold Messiah has been working towards through the generations, finally blooming, and transitions all humankind into what the crumbling crone had planned all along.
Okay.
So with one fungi destroyed, another rises in its place. Is that right?
And that's not necessarily. I don't think that is a negative. I don't think it's a dark thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, but
last,
just one fungi replaces another fungi, because we destroyed the Forever Folk.
Well, and we saw the last gasp of gorism as well too. They tried to recapture that, and you can't look to the past, you need to look to the future, and this is what the Messiah had been working towards. The mold Messiah transformed not only itself, but also all of humanity into its next collective stage,
Okay.
losing humanity.
Yeah, so I've got one then. Yeah.
Well, and so the mold Messiah, that's somebody different than the Crumbling Crone, but she was.
No, that's Avalad. That's
yeah.
Avalad was really
Mold
kind of the
Messiah.
first in the line towards that, but in the line of Avalad, you follow it through, it makes its way to the mold Messiah.
Got it.
Who are
Messiah, descendant of blood.
And I imagine, following on the resurgence of Gorism, it must have been everyone thought it was dead, right?
Got it. Yes. Okay, let me remove that.
Yeah, so Avalad wipes out the Black Tide. Then sometime later, so
This goes here.
yeah, so that's the end of the Black Tide. And then the next period is the cult of Gorgar. So following the end of the Black Tide, that leaves a power vacuum. The cult of Gorgar bounces back, rises and rules humanity, and wants to rejoin the civilization of the Great Apes. Rejoin. So, what do we think the status of the Great Apes is when the cult of Gorgar? What have we got here?
We don't have anything, so it can be.
Yeah, we don't know what's really happened to the apes.
Mm-hmm.
We know the Gorgar is killed. The lycanthropes turn, so there's this humanity. Yeah. So the lycanthropes were also to do with our fungal friends, but the crumbling crone turns up and offers Carla the Wise the way to drive back the Forever Folk. And that is at the time of the Black Tide. So there's this birth, and this is like the birth of Fungal Folk 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the apotheosis bloom.
Yep.
Yes. So they're going strong. They're going strong. But lingering on are some apes, and maybe they form up as the cult of Gorgar rises. Yeah, because they've not really been driven away, have they? They've just maybe we resist. The coal was resisted, then the lycanthrope thing was resisted. So humanity is actually just getting stronger and stronger, really. Then there's a bit of pushback. The cult of Gorgar rises. Wants to rejoin the civilization of Great Apes.
Colin, if I can suggest, maybe if you want to think about it a little more, maybe Arlen.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. I was just looking at this timeline because the one thing that's throwing me off a little bit is the humanity creates a pheromone that destroys the Forever Folk.
Yeah.
That's slightly in conflict with ending the Black Tide.
Well, I think the Black Tide is like it's like a particular period and a particular relationship between the Forever Folk and the humans, right? It's not
Right.
ending the Black Tide doesn't mean that there are no more fungal people.
Yeah.
No,
anywhere.
right.
Nor does it mean
Okay.
that there's necessarily and there's no more lycanthropes either. Like they could have been transformed and their body still could work that way. Just they're not going to be controlled by the Forever Folk and the Black Tide any longer.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Colin, you want me to do?
Yeah, go for it, mate. Yeah.
All right. So I've got a scene. Carla the Wise gives birth to Avalad, and we all know this history, of course, because this is the history of the true church. And so we all learn it as children. And the scene is here in the enclave, the sort of like it used to be just a lab, but now it's sort of like a site of resistance and survival in the terror of the lycanthropic plague. And there's an order of like we call them judges, and they're like witch hunters who hunt down lycanthropes, right? That's their thing, is they gotta deal with, because lycanthropes aren't just wolves, they're like people sometimes too. And how do you, right? You got to kill them while they're people so that they don't turn into wolves and infect you, right? And these witch hunter types come, and there's one of them who is concerned about the scene that I wanted to play out that we didn't get to, which is too bad. Is Carla the Wise is sort of put to the question by this witch hunter type of like, how can we be sure that your child is not going to be a something horrible for all of us, whatever it is. And then we have kind of a tripartite defense, right? Her advisors and her counselors and whoever it is that she talks to, they each kind of give their response. And Carla the Wise ultimately doesn't say anything, and somehow it works out because the witch hunter doesn't put Carla the Wise or the child to death, and thus Avalad is born. And for the Church of Avalad, this is the first, right? The first hurdle that is overcome by their Messiah or Messiah sire or whatever we want to call him particularly. But this is like the test that she succeeds at.
It could also be the birth of.
I'll fill it out. The question is basically how does hybrid fetus Avalad survive to reach his destiny?
Yeah.
And the answer is that Carla the Wise and her people are able to, through the kind of legalistic and moralistic and religious defense that they put up, are able to protect the mother and the baby. And that's sort of the kind of like, right, that's why this story is about good instead of evil. Right, because thematically it's about these people who are ultimately trying to protect the young mother, whatever else happens.
It also seems to be the birth of the fanatical holy warriors who serve the church.
Yep, because of course the judges are eventually going to get, right, they get folded right into Avaladism. Once they're not hunting lycanthropes, they're hunting heathens of other sorts and stuff like that. So there's definitely a dark tint, but that's the question. I'll type it out. But yes, that's the scene.
Okay, great.
I since it pops up, Avalad performs a miracle of anchonism and ended the Black Tide. I just can't help but wonder what that miracle looks like. What is this miracle?
You can make the scene.
So Avalad is the product of this union or whatever it is between the crumbling crone and Carla.
Mm-hmm.
Or well, not necessarily the crumbling crone, but the crumbling crone has offered this thing. She's passed this test that Ireland's just talked about, and then probably some time later, probably Avalad does lots of things. Does Avalad is this miracle? So the crone. How would he end a black tide? This miracle, it would be something that pushes it back. Something is unleashed. Does he become a conduit? So the question be what is Avalad's miracle, or what does Avalad's miracle look like?
I think that would be. I think that would.
How is the miracle performed?
Something like that. Yeah.
What is the?
I mean, I will say the Church of Avalad thinks that is right. That's the test, is that you have to accept the miracle without knowing exactly how it happened or what happened, right?
Right.
Avalad calls upon us to be faithful to the miracle without understanding rationally exactly how or what happened.
That's what they say, but again,
the timeline says that he performs this miracle at this.
So he did.
This moment it is an event on the timeline.
So of course we can have a scene within it that actually tells us the truth. It doesn't matter what they say 500 years from now.
Actually, their records are proper sketchy.
Yeah,
they are.
So
no written records. It's difficult to know what happened.
Right, but we can now know what happened.
Also, whatever happened is not necessarily what the church believes happened anyway.
Right.
That's right.
How did Avalad perform the miracle, basically?
Yeah. Okay. So
is the question that, or is it more what is the miracle? Like how he performed it is a question as to what power drove the ability to do whatever it is he did, but we don't even know what he did.
True.
So I wonder if is the question, and Colin, it's for your question, was that what
yeah. You know, I just want, I see that event and it just sprung in my mind, what, I guess what is that? What is this miracle? What is this miracle? What happened there? I feel like that's a blank eye.
Okay.
If it helps inspire anything, the miracle of Enconism, the Greek root for Enconism means to suffer.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of tying in. Yeah, that's kind of tying in because I just got this image of him being consumed by some kind of.
What if it's when the tide of lycanthropy, like what if lycanthropy didn't stop being spread? So what if there was just a fucking epidemic of it spreading throughout things? Not only because every new one, like a zombie plague, but with werewolves and driven by a singular force. What if he faced an army of them and drew the wolf spirits out of them?
Yeah, so
into
like
himself,
stands up in some prominent place and
face them all, and with every claw, with every bite, with whatever else, it drew the spirit out of them. And in keeping with the regenerative,
because he taps into whatever the crumbling crone's ancestry thing was, So maybe there's this dormant mycelium that the crumbling crone passed on a kind of interface, into this guy. So once he gets up in once the time is right, he like anchors himself there, and the shoots of mycelium, he becomes one with the crumbling crone, which is in fact a alternate fungal network kind of thing. And you've got these hordes of ravenous lycanthropes or whatever, and like you say, maybe because this crumbling crone is a kind of a different thing, it works at a spirit like level, and it just kind of sucks up all this energy. And
if it did too, if it was, if it required his contact and they needed to bite and chew and whatever else, he could be regenerating like a werewolf throughout that whole ordeal. Arms ripped off that regrow, eyes torn out that regrow. But it also, maybe this was the way that he became the focal point for turning everything, is if it was an airborne spore that cured, lycanthropy, then he sends out, like lupine, messengers or lupine converts. What's the word I'm looking for here? Missionaries.
Acolytes, sort of.
Missionaries. They go around, and then everywhere they go, it clears or cures the lycanthropic plague. Doesn't necessarily make them not lycanthropes anymore, but it frees them of the control of the Forever Folk and the Black Tide, and it prevents the spread of it.
Mm-hmm.
God, that which would last of the lupines would be an interesting event as well too, when the very last of them dies, knowing that it's the last one, unless it spreads on through like breeding. But
I think I've captured most of that. Take a look.
Yeah, it's quite a tricky one.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Cool.
All right. So then, with that, I think, Robert, do you have any closing thoughts or comments?
Other than it was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate all of y'all joining me on this.
Yeah, man.
And thanks, of course, to Kevin for such a great cause. That was so easy it's right up my alley as far as types of causes I like to donate to. So, and I managed to meet a lot of friends and really enjoy role playing with all you guys.
Yeah, man.
Well, this is, and again, for Robert has made this entire session possible through his generous donation to the SOS Children's Villages International Charity, a really terrific organization active in over, after over in 80 countries, I don't remember my spiel anymore, 130 countries in the world, and I may be wrong about that. It's been so long since I've done the spiel, but it's active in a ton of countries. It benefits over 80,000 orphaned and abandoned children. You can learn all about it. I can't remember if I have a link in the description of the video, but I will put a new one in there. You are free to make any donations yourself as well, too. All donations go directly to help the kids who benefit from the activities of SOS Children's Villages International. And this is a lot of fun to play, too. It's rare that I get a chance to just play as well, too. So, Robert, thank you so much for offering to run this for us as the charity session instead of me putting something together. So thanks. And to Arlen and Colin for joining in as well, too. Thanks, guys. This was a lot of fun to learn about this history with all three of you guys. So thank you. For those listening...
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Really enjoyed it.
And for those listening at home, thank you so much for joining us for this this exploration of the history of this hidden world. As is always the case, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, the game, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below. I have a link in the description of the video to Lame Mage Productions, so you can get a copy of Microscope yourself from the publisher. And that's kind of that. We'll bring it to a close. Thank you again, Robert. This was terrific. For those listening at home, if you are joining us during the current crisis, we hope that this finds you healthy, safe, and weathering the current crisis as well as can be expected. We hope that we gave you a few hours to turn your mind off of the troubles of our world and think about the troubles of this world that we've all just invented. And until we see you again, happy gaming.